The base is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's time for the opening kickoff presented by kickoffcoffeeco.com. Make sure you're following them on all your social media platforms. You can use the code Soccer Down Here 15 and get 15% off of your purchase. And know that 10% of the money that Kickoff Coffee brings in goes to youth-based or youth development organizations that are based around soccer, that use soccer to better the lives of kids. And what more do we all want who love this game than to use it for the power of good? So go there, kickoffcoffeeco.com, follow on all your social media platforms, and get your coffee. You're going to need it on a day like today because it's a busy day with all kinds of things to get into. We're not going to linger too much right here. You've got the finalissima to talk about. Nick Alifi doesn't want to talk about it. We're going to talk about it a little bit. You've got U.S. and Morocco friendly to talk about. Bart Keeler is going to join us at 9:30 to help us talk about that one. We've got some Atlanta United 2 to talk about from last night against RGV 4-3. It was chaos. We'll get into that. We'll get into Scotland and Ukraine. We'll get into all the latest rumors and innuendo. Niko Moreno will join us to give his takes on Charlotte's interesting week and on Giorgio Chiellini going to LAFC after he was retired in a match yesterday by Lautaro Martinez and Angel Di Maria. Interesting things are all over the place this morning, so let's jump straight into them. Again, thank you, Kickoff Coffee, for being one of our partners, and make sure you get your coffee and do some good in the world using soccer. All right, so we're going to bounce around a little bit here, guys, in the first 20 or so minutes. Jarrett, Scotland was bad, and it was a tough situation for them. Ukraine, with all the emotion, everything in the pre-match. Look, it's a situation that Scotland and a feel that they've probably never had before one of the biggest games of their lives. But I thought if anybody looked overwhelmed with the situation, it was Scotland, not Ukraine, which is how I thought it would be coming in. And Scotland at home was thoroughly outplayed.
I told Nick Alifi as the game was getting started, like, if they lose this game, I'm not going to be mad. I'll be sad because it's a great story with Ukraine. Nah, I'm mad. I'm mad not because of Ukraine. I'm mad because Scotland just was that bad. Like, second best team on the day if we want to go the English route with it. Yeah, look, you're missing guys like we talked about it yesterday. You were going to have to make changes because you did not have Kieran Tierney to bomb down that left side. You made changes, but the guys who were in there, the guys who you expect to step up, didn't do the job. I'm very curious how like Robertson's feeling because of all of the games he has played over the past year with Liverpool, because he just did not look like himself. And I'll preface this by saying I'm a big fan of Aaron Hickey. Aaron Hickey looked overwhelmed for the moment, wasn't up for it. It happens with young guys. I was just really disappointed with how flat they looked. I get the goal late, which is partially off of a goalkeeping error from Ukraine, but they aren't really able to do anything after that. And it was disappointing. And it's another log on the fire of Scotland and their fans getting disappointed. But none of that should take away from the fact that Ukraine, in a really tough situation, rolled in and just basically flipped over Scotland's lunch tray and ate their lunch. It was really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, they were the dominant team by far.
Absolutely.
It got to 2-1. It didn't feel like it was 2-1. It felt like Ukraine was in complete control. They never really seemed threatened. They put it away late. Ukraine can go and beat Wales. Wales is always the giant wild card because of one Gareth Bale. When he is on, he can be one of the best players in the world. And he can also be anonymous. They have a good supporting cast. I don't want to put it purely on Bale. He's a one-man team. It's not that. But he can put them over the top and make them a very dangerous team, as we've seen over the years. And otherwise, they're solid. I think they're going to have to be very good to beat a Ukraine team who, we always talk in these situations about the team who is coming in on short rest. Maybe they have a disadvantage. I don't think it is in this case where it's not a league. Like, everybody's dealing with fatigue from their league seasons. If anything, I think this game against Scotland helps Ukraine find a rhythm, helps especially the players who played domestically find a rhythm, and they're going to be in more rhythm than Wales coming in. I think Ukraine could honestly have the advantage going into that in terms of form, but just can they put up another good performance like this? It feels a little bit like a toss-up kind of game, John.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Early juice boxes have Wales at a plus 164 and Ukraine at a plus 191. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of one being a marked favorite over another. And, when you have somebody like Alexander Zinchenko say that every game's like a final. So that sense of urgency is there for them, knowing what's going on, and they've already got this game under their belt going into the weekend against Wales. And you talk about all the emotion, you have all of the stuff that leads into this, and I think that you have a game like you have against Scotland. You have a quick turnaround, but you're playing with that momentum, you're playing with that energy, you're already out there, and I could see Ukraine beating Wales because of all of these factors that we've been talking about here.
Yeah, everybody could see Ukraine beating Wales, and I think you could see it go the other way too. I mean, that's the epitome of a toss-up, right? I think Ukraine can win this game. I think getting the game under their belt really helps them, and they needed that. I just wondered how they would look with, the soccer sense of all of it, and they didn't seem to have any problems with that. So that question, I would believe, has been answered. Now it's just going to be down to the individual matchups, and we'll get a little bit deeper into that as we get closer. Disappointing for Scotland. I mean, Jarrett, after a Euros where they had the draw with England, after a campaign for World Cup qualifying that they finished so strong, what's next for Scotland?
Next is figure out what you want to be. I think you have a number of players who are really fun, who are very good at what they do. John McGinn, very good player. Billy Gilmore, very good player. I want him to keep getting minutes. I don't know if that needs to happen in Norwich or wherever. I don't want these guys sitting on the bench at some random club in England because they feel like they have to go to England. Go somewhere you're going to play. Yes, get the competition so you're getting better, but go somewhere. We have this conversation about the U.S. goalkeepers. Go somewhere you're going to play, please, because they have this. This was a frustration yesterday with them that you don't have to go route one necessarily. You actually have midfielders who can play with the ball. You have Aaron Hickey, who can play with the ball, plays in Bologna, and can play with the ball and not just be a guy to pump in crosses. What are you going to be going forward is a great question. I would assume Steve Clark keeps the gig and they see what they can run it back.
What about Steve Clark?
I think he keeps the gig because it has been a very good run, and it's as close as they've gotten in a long time. And they can feel good about it because they have a lot of good young players, and I don't think they pull the plug on Steve Clark.
Yeah, but here's the problem. I think they should, because if you don't, then the idea of what's next and playing with the ball more and doing things differently ain't happening. I don't think. I mean, maybe Clark will surprise us, but I think he kind of is what he is. I think the team's going to be what they're going to be. And sure, some faces might change, but the overhaul that we've talked about in general with Scottish football, I don't think it changes if they keep Clark. I mean, this might be his ceiling. And if, having a good result in the Euros, but not getting out of the group, getting to a playoff in World Cup qualifying in this current format, they should have a better opportunity to qualify in the new format. That's going to be more teams qualifying. Maybe that's good enough. I don't think it is. I think they can do more, but we'll just have to wait and see.
I think they can be more with the talent they have now.
Yeah, that's my biggest reason why I think maybe it's time to move on, because I don't think the approach changes with Clark. I think you're going to need somebody else to come in with a different approach. But then do they make that hire? We'll just have to wait and see. Can
can I give you also, this is something that you're going to have to contend with Scotland and Scotland fans. We literally have seen this now with two clubs in the Scottish Premier League, SPFL, of how willing are they going to be to patiently wait to see someone install a system where they're going to play.
Well, you got to change the culture, and you got to start somewhere if you want to. If you don't want to, then just don't worry about guys who are coming up who can play with the ball. They might not play for Scotland, and you might just need to go get the hard-working, hard-charging guys who can kick it long and kick it high and kick it far and chase and fight and scratch and claw, and then that just might be the players you pick for the national team.
Yeah, to your point, my question is going to be, how much are you willing to deal with the, how hard are you willing to work to make the culture change if it needs to happen?
That's what a national team's there for, and that's what a federation's there for, and that's their job. And if they don't want to do it, then they're not doing their job very well. And I think they're not serving the best interests of the game in the country, because that's what sets the expectation. Spain was a little reversed, but Spain, when you had the revolution with what Barcelona was doing, and the Spanish national team was like, well, we've got all these guys who can play. Why are we doing the, I believe they termed it Roja Furia, the Red Fury. I mean, it was just blood and guts and all that. That's how Spain played. We don't think of that now, but that's how Spain played for a long time. They finally realized it going into the 2008 Euros. Like, we've got all these guys who can play. We've got these little magicians on the ball. Why aren't we playing this way? Let's do it. And they did. And it changed the way we see Spanish football. Scotland can do that right now with some of the young players they have coming through, and some of the players who are being developed, and some of the new ideas. But it's up to the federation, and it's up to the coaching staff to decide. This was a big topic with Greg Berhalter in the U.S. and coming in, with changing the way we think of how a U.S. team can play. And it's been a process, and we've seen the bumps in the road. And I think they're getting through that process, and it's a good thing, hopefully, in the long term. But I'm sure there's people on Bird apps who disagree thoroughly, because that's what they do, right? I want to touch on Italy and Argentina a little bit, because some of the issues that Scotland is facing are some of the issues that Italy's facing in a different way. Italy was able to get some results in the Euros and then continue to ride that on and win the whole thing. They did not get to this stage in World Cup qualifying. They had a shocking home loss in a playoff, and they got knocked out. Second time in a row, they got knocked out of World Cup qualifying. And this was the end of the cycle, the Finalissima game with Argentina, the Copa America champions and the Euro champions. And I think Kylian Mbappe probably turned it off at some point after his comments about, South American teams and European teams, because buddy. Argentina looked like a team that might need to be in the short list of World Cup contenders. And I have not wanted to put them there. And if you guys are new listening to the show, I'm not doing a show if I don't see Diego Maradona in 1986. So I am a big Argentina fan. And I don't think they are at the same level on paper coming into this as France or Brazil. But if they play like this, they are. They were outstanding. And Italy was poor, and that's the other side of it. Donnarumma made a number of huge saves, maybe the best game he's had in a long time. But Italy is looking at the same thing that Scotland is, in my opinion, Jarrett. They have to get younger. They have to change their approach, because the young players coming through are not like the older guys. They have to make some bold statements. Now, they're in a little bit different situation with Mancini as the manager, who has accomplished more than Clark has. And, okay, maybe you keep him to start the revolution. But if you don't have a revolution, then Italy is going to stay in this spot where they are of underachieving.
Yeah, they are. And they're going to have to make some hard decisions, and that's what they are. They're tough decisions for everybody. Like, anyone who has to make these, it takes some bravery, because we talked about with Scotland, that you want to see teams be able to play with the ball. Okay, probably going to be some hiccups on the way, because that's just how it goes, man. And how much are you willing to suffer for that, because you have more and more players becoming call it skillful if you want to, however you want to define it, versus playing that route one over the top we're going to defend like demons. You can defend like demons and still play with the ball. I mean, that doesn't have to change.
Well, that's Italy. I mean, that's they're not going to be a Route 1 team. That's the big
Speaking for
difference.
Scotland, you don't have to. You don't have to be a team that plays with the ball and then also sacrifice, that defensive pride that you have. Because, damn, dude, there's a lot of pride that got left off the field the other day because yesterday was ugly.
Well, look, it's a lot, and it's something that we've talked about, and the U.S. and their performance kind of ties back into this as we're weaving through the games from yesterday. You can be a good defensive team and not defend deep. And I don't think we try to talk about that here a lot, especially when we watch it with Atlanta United game in, game out. They defend all over the field. Teams make a decision on where they want to confront and where they want to engage and where they want to start defending. Some teams don't want to start defending high up the field. They want to be safe. They want to defend deep. Some teams want to defend starting really in the middle. Some teams want to defend when the ball turns over in the attacking third. You can be as committed and as intense defensively in any of those places. So I think it's something that over time we're going to have to start wiping away from the lexicon a little bit about being defensive and what that means, because it can mean a lot of different things. Being a good defensive team, what that means, that can mean so many different things in the modern game. Italy historically has been a team that has defended from deep. They look to get out on the counter. Scotland historically has been that team. Well, you want to go really back historically, they were that team that played. They were the team that had the ball at their feet. They were the team that wanted to be creative.
Professors, baby.
That's what they wanted to do. Well, when was that, Jarrett?
It was in the 1800s, I believe.
Not quite. 50s, maybe. It was when they were known really as that team that could play. I mean, early on, of course, but they did have it longer.
I'm referencing Scottish professors way back in the day.
Yeah, I'm trying to give them a little more credit than you.
What if we moved without the ball?
Trying to give them a little more credit, at least into the previous century. They've had a history of that, and they've gotten away from it. And that, I think, is sad, because I think some of the young players that are coming through now are not those kinds of players to play that old school way. And I think Italy's something that they're going to have to figure out how they bring through players. And we've had the conversation a million times about youth development and trusting young players and accepting that there's going to be some mistakes. And you have a lot of clubs in Serie A who won't do that. And that's going to have an effect on the national team. But again, to me, it goes back to the decisions you make at the federation level, involving your national team, involving your youth national teams, and involving how you want to display your country's way of playing. Because that's the wonderful thing about this game. When you think about national teams, you generally have an idea of what that team does, how they play. And quite often, the way they play or the personality of how they play reflects the people of the country. And it's what's amazing about the sport. And it's something that, I mean, I can think back to when I first in 86 started to fall in love with it and think about teams. You think of how teams have those similar ideals when they're at their best. Of course, you have generations that don't reach that. But you think of teams playing in a certain way, and you think of what they stand for. And I think Scotland at times has gotten away from it. And I think Italy has to find a way to modernize it, because the Catenaccio kind of idea, of course, there's going to be a time in a game to be that lockdown defensive team. But I just don't think most young players want to play in that way. I think we're at a point now where most players want the ball. Most players want to play. Most players want to take chances. And I think you're going to have to modernize a little bit there and evolve. We'll see if they can do it, because right now the old school way isn't working for Italy. It's not working for Scotland, and it puts a ceiling on you, in my opinion.
And I mean, it's two different expectations, because Scotland, you're trying to get back to relevance. Like, making the Euros was such a huge moment for them, and it was a lot of pride, and that was awesome. Italy won the Euros. Italy's missed the last 2 World Cups. This is a country that doesn't make World Cups. They win World Cups. And I don't mean it as a slight to anyone in Scotland, but right now the expectations are different if you ask those fan bases, because of the way what's happened over the last few decades.
Yeah, no, of course. I think the expectations are different, but I don't think the story is that more. Different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and please understand, I'm not saying Scotland should be expecting to win World Cups right now. Not at all. I'm talking about just the way that they approach the next cycle. I think both of them have to change their approach, and both of them are in that same situation of having to reimagine a little bit about who they are. And if they don't, then I don't know if anything changes outside of the fact it's going to be easier to qualify in 26 than it is in 22.
And I mean, if you're a young player right now in Italy, and you have the 30-somethings that are not getting any younger, and you're continuing to have these issues, and you're a 20-something that sees these problems and you don't see any change. Yes, I know you want to represent your country, but right now it's like, I'm not getting any playing time if I'm here in my country's league, and I'm not seeing any kind of success on the national scale. I mean, you've got to see something. If you're one of the hires up in Italy, you should be able to sit there and see, we have a problem. We have there's nobody in that gap in the 20s that can be part of that stabilizer as the guys that are leaving in their 30s. It can be there to help with the guys of the 20s.
You just got to play them. You got to trust
them. Nick has an entire
and it's
manifesto
not just
about
but
that.
It's not just at the club level too. It's at the national team level. I mean, the club level, we've talked about it with Juventus, but you have to play these guys. And I mean, yesterday, it's a trophy that is bringing back the Artemio Franchi trophy between the European and the South American champions. It's a trophy that for Argentines has meaning because it was the last trophy that Maradona lifted wearing the Argentine shirt when he beat Denmark in 93. So now Messi and Maradona, because Maradona never lifted the Copa America. Now they've lifted the same trophy. So there's a lot of some symbolism there. But yeah, it's a glorified friendly. But neither team played it like a glorified friendly. And Italy got played off the park in a really bad way. And on top of the failure to qualify 2 times in a row, this is your game. This is it. This is your year. This is all you got. This is the send off for some of these guys. And for somebody like Chiellini, who is past it, to have his Italian national team career end with a halftime substitution because he's just been thoroughly outplayed. That's sad. It's sad, and it's a situation that should be a wake-up call. We'll see if it is, but it should be. Quickly, Jarrett, before you go, so the U.S., as we're going to talk to Bart Keeler here in just a minute, they get the 3-0 win over Morocco. They handle their business. Anything that jumped out to you in that as you've been able to look back at it and pay attention to what happened? Any storylines out of it that you are looking to talk about and to carry on to Sunday's match against Uruguay?
Center back, who's going to grab that spot? Like I said, John Brooks apparently is out of the picture right now. Don't know how that's going to change, but what did Aaron Long show you? What did CCV show you? What do other guys show you to grab that? To take these early auditions and run with it? You got 5 games left before you get to the World Cup. Who wants that spot? I want to see more from Joe Scally to see if Joe Scally can be a guy to impact things. Jesus Ferreira, I mean, I don't, man. Every time we
Haji Wright,
Haji Wright, Haji Wright is out here taking people's chances, which good. You should. You get a chance, you run with it. So I want to see what some of these auditions look like, because it's not just depth auditions anymore. It can be, hey, who wants to start the first game of the World Cup? All right, go play well then.
We'll see what happens. And then there's 2 Nations League games after Sunday. So 3 more games in this window, probably a couple in September. And then we are heading in to play either Wales or Ukraine in the first game of the World Cup, week 1 of it. Thanks, Jarrett. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
See you.
All right, let's get deeper into the U.S. men's national team Morocco match with Bart Keeler, Bartimus Prime 19 on your social media platforms. What's up, Bart?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
How you feeling after last night?
I mean, I feel pretty positive. That was
Bart positive? Wait a minute. What?
Wait a second.
I'm afraid now.
No, I mean, I think it was exactly what you want from a friendly, in that it was not by any means perfect. And I think you still have a lot of questions about particular position groups on the field. But you got a 3-0 win. You created decent passages of play to create chances for yourself, not just at those goals. And, I think I know Christian Pulisic was upset with the fans there, but if you were a fan watching at home, you have to be encouraged by the 3-0 win. And if you were a fan in attendance, probably also a Moroccan American, hopefully this has taken you to say, hey, this is a team that I can actually support.
Let me ask you, do you want to talk about Pulisic off the top and get it out of the way and what he said, or do you want to end with it?
Let's get it out of the way right
now.
Okay,
because that's good.
As someone who has traveled a lot to support the U.S. men's national team in the past year, I have zero desire to go to Cincinnati, a city that I do not like to go to.
For the fourth time in 8 months.
I disagree with you on that one, but
I know you do.
I like Cincy.
But I didn't want to go there again anyway.
Of course.
Let's
touch on a couple
issue.
Yeah, I want to get a couple things that I think we can get agreement on, because I've seen it's outrage. It's okay. Everybody yelling about different things. Issues with where U.S. soccer is in scheduling their games. And I'm going to leave qualifiers out of it for right now, because I get that there's a competitive side of it, but there's a little bit of overlap. They're playing games in the same places too often. I think we can all agree on that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. The ticket prices are too high.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think the base ticket price is the issue. When the base ticket is $50.
Now, here's a question I have, and this is something that I do think that U.S. soccer fans might have to look in the mirror a little bit about, and I know probably people are already firing up the Bird app. How much when the Mexico tour, and we can't have the same conversation about Mexican fans and the Mexican games that we do about Morocco. Of course, Morocco, I went to the game in 2006 in Nashville when Morocco thoroughly outplayed the U.S. before the World Cup, and that did not end up being a good sign for that World Cup. I don't think Morocco had played in the U.S. since. So, I get it when it's a team like that. Everybody's coming. If the tickets are $80, $100, you're going to pay it because it might be your chance to see it. I'm like that with Argentina this year. If they come and play a game before the World Cup with Messi, I'm probably going to pay the ticket, and I'm probably going to go because it'll be my chance to do it. But Mexican fans, for those friendlies that they play, 6 to 8 times a year, about the same.
Mm-hmm.
What are the prices? Are they dramatically lower than U.S. ticket prices?
They're not dramatically lower, but I was able to purchase tickets to the Mexico game for a lower price point, but not a significant. I mean, we're talking $5 cheaper.
Okay.
Right? To that game happening in Atlanta.
So a little
that is in a much larger stadium.
Yeah.
A stadium that, by the way, uses turf, which I know shocks the crap out of U.S. soccer that you can actually play on turf. But I do think that I think there are 3 things, and I do think ticket price is a big issue. I do. I'm not trying. Yeah, sorry, I'm not trying to dismiss that it's not an issue. I think it is. I think it's a market issue, right? The Mexico fan is willing to pay that.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to get to. Is I think there is an issue with how U.S. fans feel about their team, and Mexican fans. And look, right now, Mexico's not in as good a position as the U.S. is. I don't think. In general, I don't think there's as much to be excited about. I don't think they're getting out of their group in the World Cup.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think there's a lot of things that you can be like, oh, man, this is not good. I think the U.S. team is far more promising.
Yeah.
And if Mexican fans are more excited and will pay those ticket prices in bigger venues on a bigger scale than U.S. fans, I think it is something to talk about. And I mentioned this before with the Federation about playing games in the small venues, not having the ability to say, okay, we're going to sell 30,000 tickets at a number that we need to make some money on, but we'll have, $20 tickets in 5 sections in the upper deck in a big venue. They've got to figure out where the sweet spot is there, but also fans got to commit to supporting the team instead of, just constantly complaining about them.
So a couple things. I looked at the tickets sales on Ticketmaster for the game coming up on Sunday in Kansas City. And though it's a smaller venue of about almost 7,000.
Yeah, it's about 20, right at about 20,000.
It was more full. There's only a couple of sections that even had tickets available. So
hadn't been there in a while, right?
We haven't played a friendly, a team that actually matters, let's put it that way, in Kansas City in a long time. I know the 2021 Gold Cup was there, but slightly different. Uruguay versus, I forget who we played, Haiti and Martinique are very different, classes of opponent. So that helps. But I know that the tickets in Austin are struggling to sell. And again, we played a qualifier in Austin in October. Austin is a great soccer city now. Absolutely. It is a fantastic stadium and a place that I would love to go back to. But again, it's just when I personally just had, I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
When I just went, and traveled all across the country to attend 4 home qualifiers, had to take time off work, had to spend my own money and all this to go to these games and pay money to, $100 plus sometimes for tickets in the supporter section on top of travel and lodging. That's a lot to ask of someone. And so I think that we have to just understand that in this country, that although we think that there's a growing and passionate base of soccer fans, the reality is, and you can look at this week in and week out in MLS, our attendance numbers outside of a few markets are about consistent with what we saw in Cincinnati last night. And that's not a bad thing because they are steadily growing. But last night's match was a midweek match, sure, but it was very consistent with what you would see for a Saturday or Sunday game in many of the MLS markets across this country.
But here's one question I have involving Cincinnati and Austin specifically. Now, the Austin game, the opponent not quite at the same level, but
not going to see Granada, I don't blame anyone.
But where are the Austin fans for that? And are there so many Austin fans who are not fans of the national team? Same with Cincinnati,
right?
You're unique in the travel, and not you. There's people who do it, but not as many. The local fans have to turn out for these, and I really think it's something that U.S. Soccer needs to find the ability to play in the bigger venues and make some tickets affordable. It's honestly what Arthur Blank did with Falcon season tickets in 2002. Have a section, have some sections, have a set number. You can make a big deal about it that are family friendly, $20, $25, whatever number you want to set it at, that's affordable. Right. And it's a certain number of tickets every game to try to bring young fans in. Yeah. But you got to do that in a bigger venue because then you got to make it make sense because it is a business.
Yes.
Yeah. I think just the overall summary I have on this is it's hard to expect fans to continue to pay a lot of money when you have played in a state, not even just Cincinnati, Ohio, but a state between Ohio, the Ohio cities of Columbus and Cincinnati. You've played there like double digits, I think, since 2021. That's not in the past cycle, not even, but since 2021
calendar year.
That's ridiculous.
You have played a lot and it's not just the men, it's the men and the women, right? Yeah. So I do think that U.S. Soccer made a drastic mistake, and we totally very much called them out for this when they first did it, playing it in Cincinnati when you could have played in you could have played that game in Red Bull Arena, or you could have played that game.
You could have played it in Nashville.
You could have played it in Nashville. You could have played it in Philadelphia and put it in Lincoln Financial.
Yeah.
Stop trying to shoehorn yourself into small soccer stadiums.
I 100% agree.
You can fill larger stadiums. You just have to price the tickets right and do your job to actually try to sell tickets. And a lot of that, again, comes down to the local fan support. They have to show up too.
You got to get them to want to come. You got to make it something they want to come see. You got to make the price point fit. You got to play in different places. Let's revisit this after these games in some other markets. I think Cincinnati might be its own issue. Let's see Austin. Let's see Kansas City. Let's see what it looks like. Let's talk about the game. So I thought Sam Stejskal had a really good breakdown, kind of digging into a little bit of the tactics that tweaked. I don't think it's a dramatic change. I think we're maybe overstating that with Aronson in a central position. And
I think it was an important tactical shift, though.
It is, but it's not dramatic. It's
No.
something that, it's a 4-3-3. I mean, I've seen people like trying to start it. Was it a 4-3-3 or was it a 4-2-3-1?
No,
it's the same freaking thing.
Yeah.
There's no difference.
Yeah.
Stop with that nonsense. The difference is Aronson is higher, Musa sat more, and it's tilted.
Yeah.
And it's tilted to give the space for Pulisic in more of a free role to come inside and find it.
It was also tilted a different way. If you remember during qualifying, McKennie was often on the left side, and McKennie likes to get forward more. So that was causing a lot of congestion when you have Pulisic, McKennie, and then Anthony Robinson bombing up the left wing. We had three guys on the left side who would rather be inside the penalty area or close to it than farther down the field. So, yeah, I think that shift to put Aronson as a higher attacking player on the right side, which allowed then Reggie Cannon to stay home a little bit. So you had a little bit more of a true 3-back system, which Cannon is very comfortable playing. And I think, although I didn't love it and I didn't love his performance, it's definitely when Berhalter has said, we want to experiment with a 3-back system. I think this is more what he was talking about than truly going to 3 center backs. I also noticed Tyler Adams a lot of times pushing high in the counter press when Morocco was building out, and that was a little different change as well. So I think that Aronson in the midfield was actually more of a trial to see how we can get Gio Reyna into that spot, because I think that he and Reyna both occupy that space on the field very well. Yeah. But it also allowed Christian Pulisic to be a little bit more roaming underneath the striker. And it created a lot of good chances. I mean, we created more big chances than Morocco, even though Morocco got a lot of shots off inside the 18. We had better clear-cut chances, and we had Matt Turner, which also helped. Playing your best goalkeeper in goal,
strange,
shockingly successful strategy. I don't know how Berhalter hasn't thought of this before.
And somebody who's maybe playing like regularly at the moment, and
that'll only happen for a while.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think what you get out of this. Sorry, John. Last one for me. I think what you get out of this is Berhalter now at this stage. They're qualified. They're not having to play it a little safer. He can try a few things in these games. I wish he had more games to try a few more things, but he's not gonna. You've got to find in your system, and I've taken the capital T and capital S off. I think it's just the system because that's how any team would have now.
Yeah,
you've got to make it fit for the players you have, and I think this shows that he has an idea of how he wants to play, but now he's looking for, okay, can I have one of my fullbacks bomb, one of my fullbacks stay home a little bit? Can that be on the left? Can it be on the right? Can Aronson tuck inside and create space for Pulisic on the opposite side? Little things like that to match the personalities of the players. It's the same shape. It's the same tactic. It's just matching the players on the pitch in that game. And that's what you're going to have to do when you get to Qatar. And you might have a player get injured the week before in their league game and not be available for the first game.
Yeah, it was nice to see just slight wrinkle. They weren't wholesale changes. It was just adjustments that put players in a slightly better position.
Makes me feel more confident.
Yeah, it was nice to see from Berhalter finally. But I understand why he wasn't super, exploratory during qualification.
Yeah, balancing act.
All right, so Bart, since you're positive this morning, or at least more positive than the other times that we've had you on to talk about the national team, let's stay positive with Bart here.
Okay.
What or whom are you now least concerned about after last night? Instead of sitting there and saying, okay, we've got to do this. You've seen a bit of a tactical tweak and all these kinds of things. Who or what are you now less concerned about? I won't say least because we're not quite to Qatar in November, but is there anything that you are now less concerned about or anyone you're less concerned about now after last night?
I'm less concerned about Christian Pulisic because I think we had a lot of concerns about him playing for the national team. But this is 2 or 3 good performances in a row. I won't count the Costa Rica match because that was whatever. But a really good performance in that Mexico game. a really good performance, fantastic performance against Panama at home to clinch the deal. And then what I thought was a very good performance from him last night, at least he seemed free. He seemed less stressed and more happy to have the ball at his feet. So I'm really happy to see that from him. It was very good to see him play a little more free. And then another person who I've never been worried about, but I think that we can stop worrying about this position, is Tim Weah out on the right. He's your starting right wing. I don't care what you say. I think he's your starter. I know we can talk about Gio Reyna all we want. Tim Weah is an incredibly proficient, and he just does things on that right side that no one else in our pool can do. And look, Gio Reyna may be a factually more talented player, but sometimes it's about playing the player in the position that they can play at best. And Tim Weah plays that right wing better than anyone we have on our roster. And when he's on the field, we create chances. Also, that girl was great.
Yeah. You're going to have some interesting lineup decisions. Just thinking about it with McKinney, with Reyna, with what Weah has done.
That's what you want.
With Aronson. Yeah, it's what you, of course it's what you want, but it's nice to say like, we want to have lineup decisions and then actually have to make the lineup decisions in games that count, because it's not clear cut.
Yeah.
Pulisic is playing every time.
That was the beautiful part of that newly imbalanced midfield trio last night, as you can see where that might play into what we would see if McKinney's healthy as well, if Reyna's healthy as well. So I liked seeing that.
Yeah, for sure. The number 9 position. We still don't really have it yet, but Haji Wright maybe has at least opened a door that I did not think was open coming into this year.
Well, he did it himself during the club season.
Yeah.
And I think I still want to look at Greg Berhalter and say, dude, why is it that any striker who comes, P-Fox scoring buckets of goals, Wright scoring buckets of goals, Ferreira off to a blazing start in MLS, and none of them can score when they're in your system, dude? That to me is a slight problem with the Berhalter philosophy. His system is I know he doesn't, for some reason, scoring goals doesn't happen for strikers in the system. There are a lot of reasons for that. There are a lot of expectations that strikers have to fulfill outside of just getting in the box and putting balls home. But I do think that is cause for concern, especially now, granted, I know he scored 3 last night, but throughout qualifying, it seemed like a Herculean effort for the U.S. to actually score a goal. It felt many times during qualifying. And a lot of that was because our strikers would get in position and not score.
You've got to get goals. You've got to get goals. I don't care if they come from the striker position. You've got to get goals. Manchester City did pretty well this past season without a dedicated number 9. So it can be done.
It can be. The problem is, again, during qualifying when the goals weren't really coming. And it wasn't that we weren't creating goals.
Right. We
were creating a lot of chances. Our XG during qualifying was way better than Canada could ever dream of, because we actually play soccer. And
it's true.
It was frustrating to not see us score the goals that we should have scored. Now, granted, that Panama game was like, the RNG god finally smiling at us and say, here you go. Take all that XG you accumulated and to put it into a 5-goal performance. So last night kind of was a similar thing where Weah's shot was a blistering hot shot, but goalkeeper probably should have saved it.
Yeah.
Pulisic scores on just a brilliant stroke of talent and just pure class. And then we get a deserved. That one was actually a penalty kick, as opposed to whatever Scally supposedly gave up. So if you do it enough, goals will come. I would just prefer to actually be able to score the goals that we are creating for ourselves a little bit more frequently.
Who are you putting down in that position on the lineup sheet right now?
So I still have Jesus Ferreira.
I do too.
I think that he does everything that Berhalter wants. There were a lot of times last night where you could see him pressing high against Morocco, and creating problems for their backline. And a Morocco team and a goalkeeper specifically who are pretty good. That goalkeeper has done really well in La Liga. So it's not like Morocco is an El Salvador that we'll see in a couple weeks where, they might be a little suspect when you actually pressure them. They should, in theory, be a pretty good, well-managed and individually team. I liked that. Again, we got to score, though. And that's still going to be my concern. And Haji Wright had a good first performance, but his goal came off of a penalty kick, and I'm glad he scored it. But it's not telling me, oh yeah, he's the guy for us as we go forward.
Open play, yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got Ferreira in that spot too.
All right, so we've talked about the front. Let's go to the back. And I know that you, as the parliamentarian for the U.S. chapter of the Eric Palmer Brown Appreciation Society, want to see EPB getting minutes and showing his worth there at the back. What, after last night, information did you carry with you after what you saw, knowing that it's Walker Zimmerman, and what information are you carrying with you going forward?
So I'm not saying this because I dislike the person, but I did not think Aaron Long had a very solid first half. And I think when I watched it back, it was not, he didn't win a lot of duels. He didn't come up and win a lot of tackles. But he tried. And I think that was the thing that stuck out for me, was he was involved in a lot of contests high up the field. And he didn't necessarily lose them because they didn't like blow past him and run by him, because he's still a good defender. I mean, he is. But it does just seem like at this level, and his numbers for Red Bulls haven't been great either, show that he isn't quite at that level that he used to be. Now, again, he had to take a whole year off because he tore his Achilles.
Yep.
And I'm going to say this for all of our Atlanta fans who think that recovered means you're 100%. You're not 100%. You may be 100% at fitness, or like the injury itself is 100% healed. You're not at 100% fitness. You're not at 100% game speed, and you're not at 100% of where you saw the game before you were injured. It just becomes different.
Yeah, you can get back there, but it's not.
It doesn't happen.
Line.
Long started playing matches in January. I mean, we're not even 6 months, past him actually playing matches. So
exactly.
I'm sorry, Greg. I know that Aaron Long is probably your favorite human on the entire, second favorite to Jossie Zardes, but you cannot let past good karma dictate what is actually the reality right now. And it sucks, because I think Long, this sucks for him, because he should have been a part of this World Cup squad, but it just, what he showed me last night was not World Cup quality defending. CCV was fine. I didn't really think that there was anything particularly bad that he did, but I think both of them together we still gave up a ton of shots to Morocco and a ton of shots again inside the penalty area. So is that a midfield issue? I did think that there were some issues with Morocco being able to get through our midfield quickly. But at the end of the day, you're defenders, and you can't be allowing those types of chances that often and then say, oh yeah, I'm still good. So I definitely want to see Eric Palmer Brown paired next to Zimmerman, who I think is your constant. He's your control. Yeah. If the other guys are the variable, Zimmerman needs to be that control. I would like to see Eric Palmer Brown placed there. And also, if you want to play a 3-man, EPB can play on the left or the right. So I think that's a positive as well. But I would like to see EPB play against Uruguay with Zimmerman, a team who will press you or will sit back. They're very weird about when they choose to engage, but they're going to try to hit you on the counter regardless, and they're going to try to come at you with speed. And I think Palmer Brown is better equipped to handle that period. And it would be a missed opportunity if we don't see him this window against a real team.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the realm for the Uruguay match to see Haji Wright start and see Palmer Brown start, or CCV start, either one, and let's see what we got, because those are the two positions to me. I think you've got some choice in others, and maybe it is going to be game by game, maybe it is going to be tactically, but we kind of know who the possibilities are. Yeah, I don't know who the number 9 is game one, and I don't know who the second center back is game one right now.
There are 3 positions on this team that have not been locked down.
What's the third you're putting in?
Goalkeeper. Although, let's be real honest, the number 1 guy, for some reason, with zero evidence to back it up, is Zach Steffen.
Yeah, and that should be Turner.
It should be Turner. Sorry. If speaking from the goalkeeper union, it's really cool that Zach Steffen on like 50% of the time can kind of play with the ball at his feet. That's great.
Yeah.
I need a guy who's going to stop shots. And Matt Turner last night proved that he is an elite shot stopper, because there were some, I'm not saying that he had no business saving a lot of those, but the way he was able to not just save them, but most of the time hold on to the ball, if not diffuse a situation that could have been worse. Matt Turner is my number one. He's been my number one for a while. I know that Zach Steffen trains with Manchester City. That's really cute. He's not as good.
He ain't played except the occasional FA Cup match.
Yeah, and the other thing is, it's not like any of these guys are going to be playing. So I still would rather just choose the guy who's an elite shot stopper. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, John, you're not going to be able to use that line anymore when Matt Turner's in the same situation, and that's a fear that I have. But then if they're in the same situation, I'm taking Turner even more.
Yeah,
and I think Turner's fine with distribution. He's not elite, he's not great, but he's fine.
The fact that he's put in so much effort to improve, to me, shows that he gets it, and he is like committed to that. So to me, that gives me a lot of.
Now, I don't want to say that Steffen's not, because that's the primary thing that he's going to be working on at Manchester City in the way that they play. He's just maybe not as capable, and that's just okay. That's who he is as a player, and we're all different. The thing about Turner, and you think about the U.S. history at goalkeeper and runs that have had a little bit of the Donnarumma-esque kind of situation where he just gets on a heater and he can help win you a tournament. Keylor Navas has had those moments for Costa Rica 2014 where it's just, okay, hop on my back, I'm going to carry us. Miola had that a little bit really early on in qualifying to get to 90. Friedel had it at moments. Keller had his one monster game against Brazil in the Gold Cup in 98. It's been a while, and I mean, Tim Howard, like the game against Belgium. You have to give him that, all the saves he made. He gave up all the shots, which is another issue.
Yes.
But, I think Turner has the capability of doing that. I think Turner has the capability of going to this tournament and being on a heater and winning a game you shouldn't win. I don't think Steffen does.
Again, I'm not a huge hockey fan, but I watch enough to go, you need a goalkeeper between the pipes who's going to win you games.
You get a hot keeper in the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's what you need.
Yeah.
Now, look, you can go a couple ways with this, because you also, at times, with some teams, you need a goalkeeper who's not going to lose you games. And that comes up as well. Sometimes.
Well, that's my other issue with Zach Steffen.
Yes, exactly.
Zach Steffen has had, look, I will fully put a lot, like 75-80% of the blame of that Canada goal that they scored up in where was that? Hamilton. Early on, that was a lot on Matt Turner, 100%. Mm-hmm. However, we've had other issues with Zach Steffen. That Costa Rica match, he gave up 2 goals that were directly his fault.
Was it Jamaica that
Jamaica, he gave up a goal that probably he shouldn't have given up. And even the goal that was the phantom foul, it was just like, he does have tendency to go on a walkabout.
Yeah, he's got moments.
You can't have that when you have Harry Kane possibly in the box. You can't do that when you have, I forget the guy from Iran, but he's really good striker. You can't do that when you have, even potentially a Wales, or as we saw yesterday with Ukraine, strikers who are pretty darn good. You can't have a guy who just vacates the goal and says, I don't know, YOLO.
I'm so glad I teed you up and you hit that to the opposite field like I was hoping you would. That was perfect.
Thanks for asking.
I'm just checking, because that's the situation you're in, and that's where Steffen is for me. He's a very good goalkeeper. He's very good, and maybe before Turner's emergence, he was the guy. Turner has passed him to become a guy who I think can win you more games, and I think he loses you fewer games.
Yeah. I actually, as much as I'm glad that we have another American in Arsenal, we lost Tobin Heath, so now we get Matt Turner. But it's going to suck because I'm sorry, he's not replacing Ramsdale as the number one. Ramsdale I think is the best English goalkeeper out there, but don't tell the English pundits that. But it will be very tough for him to get match minutes. But that said, I still want the guy who I know is an elite shot stopper. And Zach Steffen has never been that. He's been a very good shot stopper at times in his career.
He's been borderline. Yeah, he's been borderline. I mean, I get why Stefan got the move to City. I get why Stefan has done the things he's done. He's very good. And in a lot of periods of time and different teams, he'd be the guy here.
Yeah.
But I just don't think he is. And it's nothing personal. It's nothing like that. It's just I think Turner's better.
Yeah.
And I think he fits this group better. And I think with them being such an, at times, emotional team in a good way, when you get those big saves from a Turner, that's even more of a lift. It's even more of a jolt. I think Turner's the guy, and he should be the guy. And I hope that question's not answered or is answered, but we'll see.
Yeah, I know how Berhalter loves to hang on to his player evaluations past their expiration date, and I think that the expiration date on Stefan being the number one has passed. I mean, I'm sorry. I think Turner is our number one, our best goalkeeper anyway.
Yeah, I think he's passed him. What are you looking for? What is your big question that you want answered on Sunday against Uruguay?
Can I have two?
Sure. I'll give you two.
The first is, can we get a striker to score within open play?
Okay.
Uruguay is a very talented team. They are very well drilled defensively, and
Diego Alonso's done a great job taking over there.
And I know you made the point earlier about, you can be a good defensive team without having to bunker. Well, Uruguay is a good defensive team who does like to sit back a little bit. So
I think they're evolving a little bit from that, but they're generally going to tend to be deeper. Alonso has brought some tactics from outside of 1970.
Again, Uruguay is a great, talented team. So individually, they're very talented. And as a team, they're pretty talented. So I think you're going to need your striker to get on the end of a cross or get on the end of a through ball and finish. And I just, it's going to be creating chances for them. Or even if not score, do they get that assist because it was a 1-2 combination at the top of the box against a bunkered team? So I just need production. I want to see if we can get production out of our striker. And the other one is, what do our center backs look like? And Greg, I don't need Zimmerman and Long again. We tested that out. That was a great experiment. We have to see someone different because you can't bring in CCV and Eric Palmer Brown and not test them more frequently. And I think it's Eric Palmer Brown's turn. And I hate to use that because, you don't give people starting spots, but you've got to give him a chance in the experiment, because if you don't, then you don't have the data to analyze if he is worth bringing to Qatar. Because right now, because, you'd refuse to acknowledge that John Brooks is a player who could help you, it has to be an open tryout for that second position next to Zimmerman. And then especially in this camp where you don't have Chris Richards healthy, who, in my opinion, is your replacement for Miles Robinson in that position. You have to look, and EPB to me is the most like Chris Richards, where they're both very athletic and physical, but still very talented on the ball. And I think you need a guy like that to pair next to Zimmerman to have a little bit of control on the ball back there, but also give Zimmerman some ability to let him do what he does best, which is put out fires.
I think where I'm at center back, I would like to have that kind of a player next to Zimmerman. I don't know if you're going to, because I think CCV is a little more of the Zimmerman mold if we want to compare them. But it might end up being best that they're together, and that's what you got to find out in these games. And hopefully then September is about getting some games with what you think your first choice will be, not still answering a question.
That's absolutely the plan. Your September matches have to be these are the best, at that point, probably 15. If you have two starting lineups, you have 15 guys that rotate between your two starting lineups.
Depending on tactics, depending on how you approach England versus, Iran.
Yeah. And just because you can't count on McKennie, Musa, Adams to start every game. It might not happen. So maybe you need to put in De La Torre, or maybe you need to, Brain is healthy and you put him in there. So that's kind of what I agree with you, Jason. This is, you have to answer these questions now. And Uruguay is a fantastic team to try that out against, because they're going to play a lot like Wales and Iran are going to play.
Not exact, but at least the same kind of approach. So
the philosophy is similar.
You're going to get something out of that.
Uruguay's pretty, Wales is
not.
Wales, well, I don't want to see Wales. I'm sorry, and it's not just because Ukraine is the great story they are. I'd love to see them make it. But I don't want to see Gareth Bale in a World Cup game, just because if he decides to be on one that day, buddy.
Wales has way too many guys who are really individually talented for me to feel comfortable about playing.
Yeah, I don't want to see that. So we'll find out. That's why I was kind of hoping for Scotland. We'll see what happens here.
Errand, Jason.
What's that?
That was a fool's errand to hope for Scotland yesterday. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jarrett.
Yeah.
But, hey, I do want to shout out Aaron Hickey, guy who played for Hearts for a while. And I know you had that conversation about Scotland needing to develop young talent. And I think he's a perfect example of the problem with the Scottish system, where Aaron Hickey, a very young, promising talent for Hearts, had to go. I mean, granted, they got relegated, so I get why, but went to Bologna and has a fantastic season. But Scotland needs to find a way to keep those guys either at home or find ways to get them up into first team minutes a lot quicker.
Yeah, that's something the U.S. has done really well with, and in a variety of ways, with guys like Ferreira, doing it here and staying here right now. Guys going very, very young to Europe. Guys going somewhere in between to Europe, and getting games with their clubs, but getting games with the national team as well. So that's one thing that they've really gotten well here. We'll see if they can get the ticket sales, and we'll see if they can get the attendances and the game selection and all that kind of stuff right. I'm not holding my breath. Monday, you want to come back and talk about Uruguay?
Yeah, we'll come talk Uruguay because, I think we'll have a little bit different things to talk about.
Yeah, hopefully so. I think we'll learn a little bit more in that one. Should be a fun one. Looking forward to it. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, John. You'll have a great one.
Be good, Bart.
Make sure you're following Bartimus Prime 19 on your social media platforms. Also, make sure you're checking out the Soccer for US podcast that drops on the SDH network from Bart and his cohorts, digging into not just the men's national team, but the women's national team, U.S. soccer things in general. I might crash his show once we're done with these games and have a little bit of that deeper conversation that we started with. It's something you have to talk about when the captain says what he said after the game. And I think a lot of people took it in a variety of different ways, and some of them were borderline absurd. But it is a topic, and it's a topic that we've had on this show about American fans or U.S. fans. Sorry, I always try to clarify that. U.S. fans buying tickets for the U.S. team. And it's something that other fan bases in this country do at a higher clip and not at a dramatically different price point. And that's something that needs to be assessed. And it's something in a conversation needs to be had. And the Federation absolutely needs to look in the mirror about this. And where they're playing games is part of it. But there are more issues than just playing games in Cincinnati too often and high ticket prices.
Yeah.
There is more to it. And when you have a 1-2 sentence soundbite after a game, you're not going to be able to dig into that. And now people are running in a million directions. But I think maybe missing some of the deeper line conversation. We'll see where it goes. We'll see if we learn any more in these games, these next two games in Kansas City and in Austin. John, why don't you tell us about our good friends over at Eliminize?
I can certainly do that. QR code over my left shoulder. For those of you watching on Twitch, for odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's Eliminize service, deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. Eliminize has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent those homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process that makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind to the environment, very green way about going things these days. We like that. We like being kind to the environment. Very, very green, Eliminize. No toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have under the sink, because when you take that masking agent out, spray it in the air, you get the mask. That's it. You're just masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem all the way down to the molecule like Eliminize does with their proven scientific formula, destroying odor all the way down to the molecule. Pricing very, very easy. One of two ways, either by the cubic foot or parts per million. Come up with a price that's affordable for you. Results in 24 hours or less. And if you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, go to their website, eliminize.com, but do us a favor here at SDH. After you've done the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from. So your full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta. Eliminize.com /Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air, expressing all of our Thursday thoughts after action at the Fraction and action in a venue that you've been in before with the national team. Eliminize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH.
And I started the music late, and you still took the same amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, John, that's not good. Don't do that. Slow down. You're like, get things going. Come on. I want to get into this from Grant Wall. I've mentioned his newsletter before. I think it is a must purchase right now. What Grant's doing is really good work. But he shared a great story in his most recent one talking about Haji Wright with the national team. It was very cool to see, penalty earned. It's given to Wright. Pulisic and Haji Wright, really good friends. They were stars on the USU-17 national team together. And you go back to 2014, and it shows you all of the work that goes into developing young talent and what the young talent has to do to break through. We watch this with Atlanta United too. We watch this with other teams in MLS, and what the young player has to do to break through and to be a star. What the club has to do to develop the player. All the coaching that goes into it. All the different things. One big component that you can't plan for is absolute complete luck and being in the right place at the right time. And this story just is what happens so often. It was January of 2014, and go read the whole newsletter. Grant clipped this and put it on Twitter, so I'm going to share a little bit of it with you. Borussia Dortmund sent scouts to a youth tournament to watch the USU 17s. They went to go watch Haji Wright. The idea was Haji Wright, somebody we want to sign. That's who we're going to get. They fell in love with Pulisic at that time. 15 years old. They saw Pulisic and they said, hey, Wright's a really good player, but there's one fantastic, outstanding player, Michael Zorc, the former sporting director at Dortmund, said. From this time, we followed him and tried to realize the transfer. That happens so often where scouts or a team go and they're looking kind of the final decision on a player and they see somebody else and they're like, oh, wait a minute, what about that guy? And then that guy gets the opportunity that the other guy might have had, and trajectories change. It is a little bit of the sliding doors kind of moment. That's what happens in sport, and that's what happens in this sport quite a bit. And it's because of the idea, and we've talked about this before, with how you look at a player out there and you say, this guy's good. He does X, Y, and Z. And somebody else who maybe has the same level of experience as you, or, understands defending better or attacking better or whatever, they might look at the same player and say, this player is bad in X, Y, and Z. And you can get people who are experts in the field and they will thoroughly disagree on a player, their potential, their ability, their fit, all of it, because there's so many variables in player evaluation and player identification and player development. There's so many variables in it. And I say this for multiple reasons. First, it's just flat out hard for players to make it. And there's so many great players who don't. And they just never found that right moment. They never found that right spot. They didn't get seen by the right person. That's one aspect of it. Also, if you're a parent out there and your kid is a player and your kid doesn't get picked for a team, or your kid, doesn't get selected for an all-star group, or doesn't get the recognition that you think they deserve or they think they deserve, don't get discouraged. You have to keep going, because there is always that possibility that a scout is at an event to see somebody else and sees your kid, and they have that day that's special, and it changes the trajectory. There's always going to be another scout. There's always going to be that other opportunity, and you have to keep going for that. And if you're a young player, a parent of a young player, you have to keep going for that, because there's no guarantees. I mean, you get some of the best players in the world coming from Barcelona, which has been one of the best places to develop talent in a certain way. And you get a great player coming through. They might have an injury. They might have another issue that affects their game. They might just not quite get as good as they were at 14 years old or 15 years old. It happens. It happens. It's a crazy thing. And this little story just reminded me of that, because I've seen it so often, just even here in Atlanta, with players who are so good, but maybe didn't fit somebody's expectation, or maybe didn't make that next step, or just didn't quite make it. And you never know. You absolutely never know. There is no science to it. There's a lot of chance. There's a lot of luck. There's a lot of hard work that has to create that luck. but there's a lot of things that are just unpredictable in who makes it and who doesn't, and what team makes it doesn't, and all of the different aspects of this game. It's why we love it. It's why there's always something new to talk about, and it's why at times it can be very frustrating and very maddening, because it's just, there's no perfect science to it.
You never know who's watching and when they're watching. That, I think, is the biggest message in all of this for any athlete, for any parent of an athlete that has aspirations of going to that subsequent level, whatever that is. You never know when you're out there. You could have, scouts watching 2 or 3 others. You've got the day where everything comes together for you. They could have been there watching others who didn't have the day that you had, and you get that recognition and you get that attention and you get to that next level because of the day that you had. Someone sees that promise that you get. So that's the biggest lesson in all of this. You just never know.
UEFA and CONMEBOL very happy about their finalissima yesterday. They drew over 80-something thousand at Wembley. A ton of Argentines there, and they got to sing songs like The One Who Doesn't Jump is an Englishman in England, which is always fun. Argentina doesn't really like England very much, if you didn't know. There's a lot of backstory on that. Successful event. First real high-profile event of the partnership that UEFA and CONMEBOL created when FIFA started getting a little reckless and talking about 2-year World Cups and all the different things. That's going to expand. They are creating a board between an executive committee of the federations. They met. They're creating a board between the two. They are planning for a U20 kind of finalissima between Peñarol and Benfica, the U20 Champions League and Libertadores winners. That's very cool. They are also planning events like this for women, for youth, for futsal, and they're going to continue with the exchange of referees. Good job, UEFA and CONMEBOL. And if you guys can continue, then maybe, you can invite some others to be part of your party that seems to be going better than some other World Soccer Organizations parties go these days.
Mm-hmm.
And also, hey, Johnny Infantino, you might want to pay attention because you might learn something. Why don't you try and watch what somebody's doing good with the game? And neither one of them are perfect either, by the way. UEFA's got some things to figure out with the Champions League final, although more of this seems to be on the French authorities who keep trying to blame other people.
Yeah.
UEFA's got a lot of things to figure out on their own. CONMEBOL does too. CONMEBOL has announced, we talked about it in the last couple of weeks, they are trying to clamp down on racist behavior in the stands and issues in the stands. They are being outspoken about trying to fix this. They've still got to work at it. They're going to have to always work at it. Same for UEFA. But this is a good starting point, and it was a great event yesterday. And Argentine television has been very, very happy about it. And they've showed every imaginable highlight you can think of from it and everything going on. And they are very pumped about their national team right now. Let's talk a little bit more about the other side of it, Italy, because there's some different topics there that I think are important before we get Niko Moreno on. The growth decree, which is something we've talked about on Soccer Over There and Soccer Down Here over the years. It was a rule put in place in 2019 for any foreign player aged over 20 years old and earning more than €1 million per year. They didn't have to pay the highest rate on taxes. It was to attract more talent to Serie A. It's worked. Well, it's changing at the start of next month. So any clubs that are trying to get deals done for high earners, they got to get it done by June 30. And Lukaku fits into this right now. Trying to figure out how to get Lukaku back to Inter. Inter's not in a great financial position right now anyway. They're not going to be able to buy him back for what they paid for him or what they sold him for. That's not going to happen. So they're trying to do a loan, but they got to get it done as quick as possible to make it to where Lukaku can make more money to do it, because Lukaku is going to have to take a pay cut, and he's not going to take a pay cut and be hit with a higher tax rate if they don't get it done in time. They're in a spot because in May of 21, they took out a loan of €275 million with Oak Tree Capital. They got to pay that back by 24. They did not get a good interest rate on their loan. they need to make about 50 million pounds on transfers this summer, net profit. You're not going to be able to get Lukaku with that, even if there's, it's a loan and there's a loan fee and all that. You're going to really struggle. There's a very good chance they're going to have to sell Alessandro Bastoni, 23 years old, Italian defender, and somebody who starred yesterday, Lautaro Martinez, 24 for Argentina. Probably going to have to sell one of them, maybe both, to try to get their bank balance right to help get Lukaku and do anything else. It's a mess for Inter. And then you look across town on the other side of things with Redbird taking over Milan, a team that was picked up by the Elliott Group basically out of default when loans were not being repaid. Elliott picks it up and then flips it for $1.3 million. One of the best deals I've ever heard of in sport.
Yeah.
Now their priority is to get Rafael Leao signed to a new deal. He's out of contract in 24. They've got time, but you've got Real Madrid sniffing around. Leao, 11 goals and 10 assists at 22 years old in 34 games. Yeah, you got to get it done. They want to renew the contract. Right now, 4.5 million euro net per season. They need more. That's what's been offered. Sorry, that's not what he's making right now. They're going to need to do more than that because Real Madrid is probably whispering sweet nothings in his ear of himself or his agent, and they're going to have to pay more to keep him. Or you got to cut bait and sell now, and then go ahead and build. They got to get Maldini re-signed as well with a new contract and keep him in the fold because he built this team and he did it not on the cheap but on a budget. And now he's going to have more to work with, and he deserves the opportunity to take it to the next level. On the other end of the table, Salernitana, we talked about their craziness as they stayed up, but their president wanted to fight with people on air after staying up, Danilo Irvillono. Well, the sports director, Walter Sabatini, according to some reports, is leaving, and the manager, David Nicola, is also potentially leaving because they can't get along with this guy.
Yeah.
So they stayed up, but they might not be up for long, Salernitana, because they are tearing themselves up from the inside. Some other rumors that are out there. Mo Salah, according to The Athletic, would prefer to join a Premier League rival next summer if no new deal to stay with Liverpool is agreed. How would Liverpool fans feel about that if he does not re-sign with Liverpool and he moves to another team in England on a free? I'm telling you, there's something not right there.
Yeah.
And that's Liverpool's got work to do this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just Mo Salah, but they've got work to do. Manchester United. So Juan Mata leaving on a free. His contract expires. I know you might have forgot he's there. 34 years old. Cost them £37.1 million in 2014. He's been there forever. 285 appearances, only 7 Premier League games last season. I don't care if he's 34. He hasn't played a whole lot. If there is an MLS team who thinks they can get over the top with him playing as a number 10 and can win something, they should go sign him immediately. One of the most talented players. Just an incredible talent. Always loved his game. We'll see where he ends up. He should have other offers. But if there's somebody ambitious who needs that 10, and honestly, there might not be outside of LAFC if they don't re-sign Vela. Because they seem to like older guys right now. Yes, I'm talking about Chiellini, who the Argentine media said that he got retired yesterday by their team. It's one thing when fans are joking about it and saying, look at the old man and this and that. But when the media is like, yeah, Lautaro and Di Maria retired him. It's like, wow, okay, this is a whole nother level. Maybe they can add a 34-year-old number 10 as well. Paul Pogba and Jesse Lingard also leaving. Manchester United has opened the talks with Barcelona for Frankie de Jong, 25 years old. 72.5 million pounds is what the numbers are right now to bring de Jong from Barcelona to Manchester United. Totally get it. Erik ten Hag would want him. I think that's a safe expectation. He's probably a better fit elsewhere than he is at Barcelona, although he's not a complete square peg into a round hole at Barcelona, but he's not the best fit for them. He's not a like for like long term for Busquets. He's not exactly of the Barcelona mold. I think they can get a lot out of him, but if you're talking that kind of money it's hard to say no to it because I think they might be able to get a better fit in that position for less money. So I think that gets done. It should, I think, for both teams. I think everybody wins in that situation. Villarreal trying to get Giovanni Lo Celso on a permanent deal from Tottenham. He came in on loan in January. Seems to be a lot of movement in that direction, so I think that one could happen. Barcelona and Tottenham talking about the transfer of Clément Lenglet, 2-season loan for the French defender to go to Tottenham from Barcelona. I've never really been all that high on him personally. I would think maybe Tottenham could do better, but when you're talking about recruiting defenders and who you want and what kind of player you want, I trust Antonio Conte. And if that's who they want and they want to commit to a 2-year loan for him, yeah, I trust him on it. So we'll see. Again, another player who Barcelona can probably upgrade for a decent price point and get a little more of what they want now under Xavi, which has changed a little bit. Arsenal, Victor Osimhen, looks like that has stopped, according to reports out of Italy. They're opting to go for Gabriel Jesus, who will be cheaper for them because Napoli wants big money for Osimhen. You're still in the 100 million range, which is a little high. So if you can go get Gabriel Jesus for a fraction of that, of course you're going to do it. Reporting from L'Equipe, also involving Arsenal, Lacazette returning to Lyon after 5 seasons at Arsenal. I think that had been pretty well expected, so not a big shock there. And the other one, we've talked about managers and where people could go. Gennaro Gattuso has been linked with Valencia in the last couple of days, which would be wild because Valencia is a very interesting ownership situation these days. And Gattuso, not exactly known for being patient at times. Make sure he doesn't have any forks handy. Fabio Cannavaro is looking for the right project in Europe as well. He was in China, left Guangzhou Evergrande, turned down an offer from FC Zurich, reportedly turned down an offer, or the offer didn't fully come, from Espanyol in La Liga. People are expecting he'll be somewhere in the top 5 in the next season, but where is the question for Cannavaro? He wants a bigger club than FC Zurich. So, Cannavaro's a guy he'd been in China. He had been a couple places in China. He'd been at Al Nassr. It's kind of that time for him at 48 to make a jump to a more serious club if he's going to do it. I can't really speak to his coaching because I'm not all that up on the Chinese league and Al Nassr game to game. I don't know where he is in that regard, but if he's going to get to where he was as a player in terms of profile as a coach, he's got to do it now. And we'll see what job opens up for him. And Gattuso's another one who has done more in that regard than Cannavaro has, but I think Gattuso has a lot to give. And his next job is going to be a very, very important one. Big decisions for those guys and what club they take if they get offered the right club.
A couple of other things before we bring in Niko Moreno quickly. Tell me if you've heard this before, but it looks like Juve is increasingly confident of signing Paul Pogba.
I could care less. They're going to sign him.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, the negotiations apparently have progressed smoothly with Rafaela Pimenta, who's been...
They've recycled that same clip from the last 6 months. Yeah. So, yes, Juventus are... I don't think increasingly confident. Juventus are confident of signing Paul Pogba, full stop.
Chelsea left back Emerson says he would be happy to return to the club next season after spending the last campaign on loan at Lyon. And it is officially official with Antonio Rudiger and Real Madrid. I's have been dotted, T's have been crossed.
Been announced.
It's a 4-year deal that has been announced. And he also on his social media today as well.
Yeah, social media is not quite as important. Real Madrid's social media is a little more important of saying, yes, he's here. And here he is in our kit and in our locker room. It's done. Sky Sports, to give a little more fairness on Paul Pogba, they are saying that the final stages of completing a 3-year deal. That's a step up from the increasingly confident. Okay, this has been talked about forever. Just sign the thing.
Yeah.
Please. Just do it. That's really it on the news front. You got one MLS game this weekend. When we get Nico on, we're going to talk a lot about Charlotte. He talked to Guzman Corujo last week. Very curious to get a sense of how Corujo felt about Miguel Angel Ramirez. Really nothing to add. The Athletic had a piece about it and shared a few things. Just from what I've been hearing, I think in general, there's been talk that it's, Swiderski wanted him out, and that was what decided it. In general, I'm hearing it wasn't just Swiderski, and I think originally that was also out there, but it's kind of zeroed in on the designated player wanted him out. Multiple people. It wasn't a great fit off the field, but and I still keep coming back to that. The results have been there, and you get to this thing of building the team that doesn't fit not just on the field, which it didn't initially, but fit off the field with the manager that you hire. And the manager is the one who pays the price. And there's a lot of people looking and trying to figure this out. And I really think there have to be more questions about not why'd you fire Miguel Angel Ramirez. At this point, my question is, why'd you hire him?
Yeah.
And why did you hire some of the players that you hired? And did you just not realize that it would be this bad of a fit that before you get to summer cookout season, you fired your first manager? Like, did you not realize that you had created such an ill-fitting puzzle? And that has to be asked of him. Like, right now, everybody's like, why'd you fire him? Give us an answer. And look, you don't want to throw players under the bus. You don't want to start calling individuals out by name. Although, it's kind of gotten out that now one player who is a little bit of a lightning rod for some Charlotte fans, even before this, now everything's blaming him because I think they've really poorly managed the message here. So the hire itself has to be questioned. The way the firing went down has to be questioned. The attempt to try to message it afterwards has to be questioned. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And there is, just to lump this one thing in before we grab Nico, there is an issue, and we've mentioned it a couple times, with the Carolina Panthers training facility, and the real estate company of David Tepper declared bankruptcy. Don't get hung up on just seeing that, like, oh, he's broke, he's broke, he's broke, he can't do anything. No, that's a business move.
Yeah,
because there's issues with Rock Hill, South Carolina, the city. I don't know if the county's involved on their end, but there were things that they did not do in their deal that they were supposed to. Payments were late, pressure back and forth, and this is a business play to try to force a resolution. David Tepper's not broke.
No.
And also in this case, I don't think purely David Tepper's being cheap either. I think it's a very complicated business deal gone wrong, where both sides probably have some blame, but there's definitely blame on the other side because payments were late. Things weren't done when they were supposed to be done. And is there maybe an overreaction to pulling out entirely? Could be, but they're doing it. And the bankruptcy issue is not what you might see a headline and say, oh, he's broke. No, he's not. That's
protecting an investment.
That's sadly smart business in this situation. Not so smart business on the Charlotte FC side, and putting together a team that doesn't fit the manager that you brought in, and did not lie about saying he's a great coach and all the things he can bring to the table. Well, he's not there anymore, and we'll try to make some sense of it with our next guest. Niko Moreno joining us. Coffee nearby, I am assuming. Very early on the West Coast, but thank you for joining us, Niko.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Yes, coffee right here nearby, ready to go.
There it is.
A lot of things going on around MLS right now. Some interesting topics. So, just ready to chop it up with you guys, where I find myself with some help to just grasp me to understand what happens sometimes. So
I got a couple of those that right now that I know we're definitely going to get into. But Niko, I'm going to have to send you some coffee from our new partners, Kickoff Coffee.
Yeah, right.
We're going to get you some coffee sent out from Kickoff Coffee. Great organization, built by Colombians, by the way. Great group, and they do a great deal with us. You use the code Soccer Down Here 15. You get 15% off of your purchases at the website, kickoffcoffeeco.com.
There you go.
But also 10% of all their sales go to soccer-based youth development organizations worldwide.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm excited to try it. Sounds like a great organization. And hey, I'm always down for new coffee.
There we go. Great, folks. Send me your address in the DMs. I'm going to send you some coffee.
All right, my man. Thank you. Appreciate it. Look at that. And I get a price.
There we go.
The hookup, brother.
I'm going to make you earn it today, though. We got to talk about Charlotte because you saw Charlotte last. You saw the last game of Miguel Angel Ramirez with Charlotte. You talked to some folks maybe before, or definitely before and maybe after. I said it when the tweet came out this week. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a fake account. I didn't think it was real. I had no idea this was going to happen. What was your reaction to Ramirez being fired in Charlotte?
A couple of double, triple takes. Try to go to the main website. I the same thing. I really thought that it was just a hoax. I just couldn't wrap my head around the news for several reasons. One of them being that I literally wanted to take the time to talk to Miguel Angel after the game, and I was unable to do so. So the fact that I missed that opportunity right before he was let go of MLS, I was so upset about, and I'm still mad about. I did get to talk to some players off the mic, and they were happy with some of the things that they did in Seattle. And I thought that they didn't have an awful game. And I thought that their first half was good, and they were able to hold up a team that at home is very good. A lot of changes, some rotations without Swiderski, no Alan Franco, and yet the strategy was there. The tactics were good. And at the end of the day, they don't get the result because of a fabulous goal by Raul Ruiz and a very good Sounders team. So, yeah, it just was mind-boggling that someone who had you at seventh place now has you 2 points off the playoff line with the second cheapest roster in MLS, and yet you have the audacity to come on the mics and patronize me and every Charlotte fan by saying that this decision was made for the benefit of the club. It's outrageous to me. So, yes, when I saw the news, I was taken back completely. When I was part of the press conference with the sporting director, same thing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing and his lack of detail and accountability for what had happened. It was just a bad situation overall.
But with this sporting director now, Zoran Cornetta, who said he didn't want to speculate and wasn't going to, but at the end it was what they had to do without giving any real detail, this is now all on him. I mean, this is where everybody now is focusing on Zoran Cornetta and, all right, dude, you've made this decision. Miguel Angel Ramirez was brought in after 14 matches. He's out the door. You said what you said in this press conference, and now the remainder of this is all on you. Full stop, I would think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is all on him. It is all on the front office. I mean, he at least was able to tell us that the entire front office took their time in interviewing over 30 or about 30 different coaches, and that he was the guy that they wanted to bring in. So you knew what Miguel Angel Ramirez was about, just like people knew what Gabriel Hansen was about. And we knew what, Frank de Boer was about, or we knew what Matias Almeida was all about. So when you bring a guy that now you have an issue with his personality and you don't allow him to have enough of a tenure to create a bigger difference within your organization, and you hide behind scapegoats of DPs that were not happy with his situation, and those rumors start to kind of get out there. To me, those are tactics by clubs to just try to get the spotlight off of them. So, yes, John, this is completely on the sporting director, completely on the front office. There is no way that you did your due diligence to understand the type of guy you were bringing in, and you didn't realize that this was what Miguel Angel brought into the table. Not to mention the fact that you failed him by not bringing in the DPs that you promised them, by delaying a lot of the progress that you said that he'd have here, and now you hindered the team's ability to continue to fight for a playoff contingency by getting rid of a great tactician, someone who, speaking to several individuals within and close to the organization, all had nothing but great things to say about him as a coach, as a person, that he was passionate. Yes, absolutely. But passion drives, and passion carries a lot of players. So there are a lot of players that are not happy with this. They are disappointed in how this was done, the lack of communication and explanation that have been said towards what happened. So, look, I'm not sure if there's a divided locker room or there isn't. All I can tell you is that those who I've talked to are not happy with this. So it is on the front office. It's a bad situation. And it's really disappointing for that fan base and this group of players that had shown you that they had enough to be in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, what I keep coming back to with this, and I think why I'm so baffled by it is, and you mentioned Gabriel Heinze. I said this when the Heinze move happened of he had to go and it was that time. And if the results had been different, you're having a different conversation about it at that point. The results didn't back up some of those difficulties. And, you don't win over people in the club. You don't create strong relationships with the staff around you. Okay, if the results are there, yeah, you grit your teeth. You get through it. You work on it. Maybe you don't stay as long as you planned, but you don't get fired midseason. The results weren't there for Heinze. They've absolutely been there for Ramirez. And the idea that and you had to do it. That was the quote that kept sticking with me from Cornetta. He had to do it. I don't see how they get better from here. That's where I keep coming back to is the results were better than they had any right to be because the team was not built very well. And that's on Zorn Cornetta. Now you've got players that you brought in to play for Miguel Angel Ramirez. He's gone. How's that going to go? You built a team and you built a roster that, for whatever reason, you've got players who didn't want to work for Ramirez anymore and didn't mesh with the way he wanted to work. And you have like such a mishmash of cultures and experiences and backgrounds. And of course, you're going to have some who don't fit with a manager. You can find any club in the world and have a group of players on that team, and they're probably the ones that are not playing who are not going to like the manager. That's just how it goes. But in this case, you've got a guy who's gotten results. You've got a guy who started from scratch. You've got a guy who's doing this without a training facility. You've got a guy who didn't have everything he needed to play the way he wanted at the beginning. You've got a guy who, out of all the expansion managers who've been fired in their first year, has more games than all of them combined up to this point. And you fire him, and you had to do it, and now you're going to be worse the rest of the year. Like, what?
It makes no sense. It makes no. I mean, when we talk about how difficult it is for a new franchise to be relevant, to stay competitive, to really put something together in a short amount of time, when you look back at all the limitations that Miguel Angel had, it's incredible that we can sit here and think of how this makes this team any better. Even if you go out there and bring in another DP that, for whatever reason, it's going to help out the team, whether, is a defensive midfielder or whether it's a winger or whatever it is. What was built, that momentum, those fundamentals that he was able to establish there, those are all gone. And this team's going to have to start from zero. And now every single player, like you said, that were brought in to play for a specific coach, immediately their effort, their talent and their adaptation to everything that was going on completely drops. And it's going to be incredibly hard to replicate on the field, because if there's one thing that was true about this team is that they were difficult to beat, regardless of the team, whether it was Montreal or Orlando or Atlanta or whoever it was. They were difficult to beat no matter what. They stayed in games. They were able to get some goals. The only thing that was a knock on Miguel Angel Ramirez was the fact that they only had 13 goals. They were, tied for the fewest in the league. And that's literally because he didn't have the tools to be a high-scoring team.
Exactly.
So what are you complaining about when in reality you're giving him no tools to be able to get those objectives? So I can't wait to try to talk to Miguel Angel Ramirez. I've tried to contact him a couple of times, have not been able to yet. I'm sure he wants to take his time before anything, but I want to hear from him. I thought it was outrageous that the sporting director and the organization was not allowing players to not get on social media and talk about Miguel Angel Ramirez. I heard for this from Claudio. I'm slipping on his last name, but he follows the team in Spanish. He put it out there. I was able to confirm that with my sources just because I had reached out to several sources, just to say it that way. And everyone told me the exact same thing. It was very clear and cut. We're not allowed to talk about this in social media or to media members right now. We can't talk about the firing. So it was a guidance, all streamlined around the organization. So that just tells you what's going on there. You don't want to have some of those players that I know are frustrated with the situation to put that stuff out there. And you cannot hide the sun with one finger. You cannot try to. It's going to happen. Before this, when I talked to Guzman Corujo, there were so many things about what he said about Miguel Angel that just expressed to me how big he was for this organization. He talked about him being a fantastic person. He talked about him being a guy who was passionate but breathed and lived soccer, and who literally took the time to make the smallest adjustments, as long as those adjustments made a difference on game day. That he stayed long just thinking about how small things can make a difference in game day. And I think that's the reason why you had this team where they are mid table and with the possibility to get into playoffs. That's now gone. So I'm bothered by it, and I can't wait to hear more and get to the bottom of what really happened.
Yeah, the reporter in Charlotte, Claudio Bonus, 10 bonus on social media. Definitely a follow in Spanish that you need to be hitting up on.
So, Nico, with this evidence that we have here, with this evidence being presented in court, counselor, where players will talk, even if they don't talk publicly to the media about a situation, they talk amongst themselves. There's a network there. Coaches know coaches who may know Miguel Angel Ramirez, who may know those close to Miguel Angel Ramirez. If I'm a player or if I'm a prospective coach, seeing all of this evidence here, why would I even be remotely interested now in going to Charlotte, seeing all of this firestorm that is happening around this expansion club that had tremendous attendance, great fervor? You're packing the place out at 32,000 plus, a lot of momentum with it. You're right there on the edge of the playoff picture. This happens, which puts everything. You're like burning your brake pads with this. This is full stop, and the brakes come off of the car. You stop it so quickly, and the suspension drops. Why would I be interested now? Because people talk. Why would I be?
But hold on, John. Let me cut you off for a second, because Charlotte can still go to clubs and go to players and offer deals that players are not going to say no to. Let's slow down on that, because money talks.
True.
Opportunity talks. MLS talks. Being in the United States talks. They're going to be able to get players. Now, what gets interesting is if it is Charlotte and, I don't know, Austin, or Charlotte and Atlanta, or Charlotte and another club who come talking to that player.
Yeah.
Then they have a choice, and that's a different conversation. The manager is the one that I look at as the way this has been handled with the leadership of the club and the way it's handled with Ramirez and telling players not to speak on the manager and all those kinds of things. That's going to be the tougher hire, because a manager will be in a tougher spot there. A player might take the job because it's the best offer on the table. They can pay, they can have more money for the family, all those kinds of things. Yeah. Different conversation.
Yep.
The manager, though, what direction do they go here? And I think what we've seen, Nico, is I would be absolutely blown away if they went for a South American or Latin manager now with what they've done here, because they've basically told you that they don't want a manager who is passionate, who is opinionated, who is going to talk. They want a yes man. And you can win with that. Yeah. But you're not going to get some of the best in that regard. You're just not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. And I think both of you guys have valued points here. I think you're going to have Christian Lacancio be the guy that's just going to stay there because he's going to be just happy that he got this opportunity. He's somebody that looked like he had a thought process that this could be a job into a head coaching spot.
Great CV on him too. I like his background. I like the work. We talked to Dylan Butler, who got to know him from his time in NYC. Really positive things said about him, but a very different kind of individual.
Absolutely. So I think that they're going to play with house money. They're going to allow this to ride, and they might just keep him, as you say, if they want a yes man, how not to do that with someone who you're giving an interim job that has low expectations, that you can just basically you saying, hey, he's the guy left for the job, and then you just continue to ride that wave. But you're right. I think that both as a player, they lose the competitive aspect of, if I got to choose between Charlotte and any other team in MLS, I'd rather go anywhere else, because there's red flags all around this organization, from what happened with Miguel Angel Ramirez to what happened with Mark Nichols and what happened with Nick Kelly, and in general, how this group is going to be broken, and it's going to have to be rebuilt and reconstructed, both in the morale department as well as the tactic department. So it's just so many issues that if I'm a player, I'm not going to want to go. And in terms of a manager, you're definitely thinking twice, because if you were able to bring in a guy like Miguel Angel and you told him that instead of the 2-year deal, you want him to take 3-year deal, and you lied to him about the tenure and about how he did well with youth and developing, and you wanted him to be the guy at your franchise, and you cut the legs from under him because he was opinionative about your mediocrity and how you're not doing your job, then I don't want to work for you, because that's what I'm going to go there. You're going to want me to be a yes guy. You're going to want me to play with the things, the players that you provide, and I got to have no decision making. And if I'm upset about what's going on, I can't relate that in any way. I don't see a big time coach going there with those types of limitations. And look, I understand that maybe Miguel Angel could have said some things within house or internally, but at the end of the day, any head coach that is respectful sometimes is going to give you little jabs here and there. Maybe not as direct as I'm not Harry Potter to do magic with this squad.
And that was one of the later ones. He had other jabs before that.
Yeah, but that one was a good one. I thought it was hilarious. So I understand that, but you're going to be criticized if you don't allow a big-time coach to do his thing. So I just think it's on the front office, and I see this team not making the playoffs and players being upset. I see in the near future frustration and lack of effort and a really bad end road for this club. I really do.
I think summer window is going to be really interesting if players push to get out and what they can bring in. I'm really interested in that, but I just keep coming back to this thing of how you run a team and how you think long-term. And there's nothing long-term about Charlotte because nobody stayed there long-term. Everybody leaves or gets fired in the case of Ramirez. And you hire a manager, he wants a 2-year deal. You talk him into 3. Okay, he accepts. Then you fire him and not even half the season. That's crazy. Second, you got to think about your long-term brand here, because if you're not happy, hey, and sometimes it happens that way. Sometimes you hire a guy, and look, we saw it here firsthand with Heinze, but like I said, Heinze did not create the relationships around him to succeed, and he didn't get the results. And ultimately, like, that's you're done. Ramirez got the results. And if the relationships aren't there and he's ticked people off and he's opinionated and you don't like him, okay, cut ties at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Like say face, say, look, hey, he wants to go in different directions. We want to go in different directions. Great first year. Thank you. We're moving on. That's cool. You can do that and everybody can come out of it looking good, but you don't do that. You don't come out of it looking good because you say the word speculate 7 times in the press conference when it doesn't mean what you were using it to mean, when you could have ended speculation and just said what happened, and you don't. So now you've got speculation and you've hurt the image of the club. Just get to the end of the year and move on if you're thinking big picture, but they're not. It's crazy.
You look weak. You look confused. I don't care what anybody says. I was angry at the way that they took that sporting director came on to the mics and just gave you absolutely nothing, wasting media's time by providing no information. Be real. Just you don't have to say, hey, I had a problem with the guy because he was making all this funny remarks and my girlfriend was telling me that I needed to fire this guy. No, all you have to say, we had a difference of opinions. We had a difference of a vision, but indicate exactly what it is. Yeah. Go to the sporting part. Go to the vision part. Go to what you see in your club that wasn't meshing with what the head coach was providing. But don't come out here and make it about speculation and be all coy about everything. Just tell the media, tell the fans exactly why you made that decision, because you're telling me that this is for the benefit of the team when the team is where they're at and the results are not there, then you're not being coherent. Yeah. Your entire argument has no basis because you are contradicting your own self by saying, I want to do it for the team, it's for the benefit of the team, but it's not about results. Then what is it? It makes no sense to me. I was angry about it.
Yeah, I mean, you've overachieved, but you've underachieved and you're overachieving, according to some folks in Charlotte. And then they're also, by not saying things, Zoran Cardetta, by not saying things up front and failing press conference 101 when you dismiss a coach, you've given the media, which is a lot bigger now than it was 5 years ago, much less 10. You've given the media the onus to dig into the situation, which could, in fact, make the whole thing worse by the media doing its job because you weren't upfront and honest at the beginning about why things the way they were.
And you don't have to back a bus over Ramirez here either if you don't want to. Like, I think you kind of did by the way he handled it. You don't have to do that. You can come out. Again, I think you should have done it at the end of the year. You're not going to do more damage by having him stay the rest of the year. You can sit down and say, look, hey, this isn't working for either one of us. Obviously, you're not happy. We're not happy. Let's cut ties at the end of the year, but let's get to the end of the year. Can you stop saying Harry Potter jokes? Can you stop making these things? We're going to give you a nice little package to leave with 2 years left on your contract. All will be good. Let's shake hands and let's work forward. Instead, you do this and you don't make it clear why you did it, because the crazier the move, the more explanation it needs. And this move is crazy. Nobody saw it coming. There was no hint of anything in it. You know, I'm sure there were, there's players on every team that don't like the coach. That happens. There are good players on every team who don't like the coach. Some of them won't tell you, but they don't like the guy. It doesn't fit. They still might play hard for him. They might not. But you don't have any players in that team, in my opinion, who have the clout to get a coach fired. And now you're at this point where, I mean, it's not, I don't think that's what happened. I don't think any of those players did it. But that's all we got to go on because you didn't explain it. Just come out and say, you should have done it at the end of the year. But anyway, just come out and say, hey, we're going in 2 different directions. He's not happy. We're not happy. It's a chance to split here during the international break. You know, he did great things for us. We're going to carry on some of the things that he put in place, but we can't work together anymore. Okay, done. But by not doing that, you're going to get more dirt and more issues, and it's just going to get uglier, I think. And I think it's going to look worse on the field. We'll see. huge opportunity for Lattanzio. We'll see what he can do with it. We spent more time on this than I wanted to, but I kind of figured we would. Let's talk about Chiellini to LAFC, because I've said for a while I think this is a horrible move, and there's been some pushback on that from people to me, and I get it that he's experienced. I get it that incredible career. It's a very non-LAFC move, and watching him in this match yesterday, and look, he's not going to have Angel Di Maria and Lautaro Martinez running at him, but oh, buddy, he's going to have guys who have speed running at him, and I just do not see how that's going to help LAFC. I'm shocked by them bringing him in.
I can't wait for the press conference, because if they give me the word and they allow me to ask questions, because they don't always do, I'm going to hammer it. And I'm going to ask him why they are trying to set the league back years. Why are you guys bringing a guy that is in the verge of retirement, that is hard to really think about how his attributes mesh with what MLS kind of pushes center backs to have, which is speed, which is the ability to handle the level of conditioning that it does. I mean, when I talked to Guzman Corujo last week, he talked about that the hardest thing to adapt in MLS was the conditioning, was the running, was the fact that you're asked so much to do as a center back. So now you're bringing Chiellini for what? I mean, when you have Murillo, you have Segura, you have Mamadou Fall, and honestly, you probably would be better off by molding guys along those three center backs and making a more sustainable product for your academy or your younger players, whatever it is, instead of going and getting a guy like Chiellini that it's going to be more of a marketing thing. I mean, I don't understand the soccer ties to this move, and I really want to know what are they getting out of this? What exactly is Chiellini going to put you closer to be an MLS contender for the title? Because I don't think so. Mm-mm. So what is it that is making you do this much effort to bring in a guy like Chiellini, a 37-year-old that yesterday did not look great, that was out of positioning, that, yes, perhaps you're not getting the Argentina front line coming at you, but you're going to have some pretty quality attacking players coming at you here in MLS. So I just don't understand it. I don't get it from the depth portion of it. I don't get it from the vision and what we're trying to do as an organization department. I mean, is he going to come and be a coach? Is that what you're kind of hoping? Because, I mean, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. And I will really criticize it directly with the organization once this does happen, because it sounds like it's a done deal. But I can't find myself to really fathom how this is a good move for the LAFC.
Is there any way stylistically that you see this working other than him being put on his bike and having guys running past him? Is there any way stylistically you see this working? No, I don't. And look, I literally just said it about Toronto and the DP they brought in. Salcedo, was it?
Yeah, from Mexico.
I said that there was things about his game that I didn't think were going to fit. He has not been great. He's somebody that you spend a lot of money bringing in. I think this is even worse. I think that when you look at what he brings into the table and you put it with what LAFC does today, it doesn't. There's no cohesiveness in between what he could provide or do on the field and what he does as a player. So I don't understand it. I think is a huge miss and a waste of resources and a waste of money for a team that could potentially do more, perhaps in the middle of the field or in the attacking end, to really be a contender here. We don't know what's going to happen with Carlos Vela. We're still trying to figure out a lot of things about this team. So why not worry about that? Or is this a distraction to the whole Carlos Vela thing? The only possible scenario where, and even then, it wouldn't make it acceptable is if Mamadou Fall has an offer out broad, or if you're thinking Murillo's going to leave or something like that. But even in that moment, you're not bringing a like-for-like guy for either one of those players. So is that the case? Maybe, but I don't think that bringing in a guy like Chiellini is going to make this team any better. I actually think it could make him worse, and he could be a stronger liability for this team in general. So call me crazy, call me, I don't know, irrational, and he's going to show you, and the quality, you don't lose. No, you do lose. Look, I don't care who you are. If Roberto Carlos was to come into this league today, okay, maybe he's a little too old, but I'm just saying, I don't care who you are and the quality of who you are as a player. Years don't come by themselves. Years come with a lot of things, and I don't think Chiellini is going to be a difference maker in this league. Let's just leave it at that.
I'm right there with you. So if we're both on that island saying that, then that's fine, because that's how I feel about it. I mean, I've watched him play. I don't see how he fits the way the league is going. I think it's getting faster, not slower. And it's not even a marketing move, because I don't think he sells tickets. I don't think he sells shirts. You know, if he actually reversed the Toronto and LAFC center back signings when Chiellini gets done, if Chiellini went to Toronto and Salcedo went to LAFC, from a marketing perspective, yes. I get that. Okay. I can actually understand that then. And there is some kind of a component that's positive. In this case, I don't know. I'm not seeing it. Let's go back. We've got a little bit of time in MLS before we get back in action. There's one game this weekend, but it's not a huge one. Let's go to what happened last weekend and what we saw around the league, because I think we're starting to see a few teams emerge. We're starting to have some questions. Dallas, I think, steps back up into a level that I think some of us have been on this Dallas train for a little bit. Nico Estevez, the job he's done. Paul Arriola, absolutely killing it right now. After a couple of losses where maybe you might wonder if the job's too big for them at this stage, they go to Orlando and thrash a pretty good Orlando team. Is Dallas as good as they have shown at times in the first 14 games? Absolutely.
No, this team going into the season had the quality, had the depth, and had the vision with the right guy coming in Estevez to make this work. The guys that he brought in, like Arriola, were guys that he already knew were going to work within his system. Even if he'd never touched the field, you already knew that was a relationship that was going to work. They have some quality talent. I think Ferreira is an up-and-coming star. Yesterday, he had a couple of chances he could have put away, but I just think his work rate, the way he handles his position, the way he occupies space is fantastic. You got a young guy like Velasco that's up and coming with all the potential in the world. So I think from on paper and on the field, from what the expectation of the coach is and the way he strategized for a game, this team has absolutely everything to make teams fear you on the way you attack them on the field. I think defensively they have a couple of things that they can get better at, and I think they have a lot of space in the midfield that gets exposed constantly, and they can be a little bit vulnerable for transition play. But aside from that, man, this Dallas team is for real. And if you're not seeing it now, man, you better go and you better check yourself or you wreck yourself, because this team is coming at you. They're a good team.
So let me go two below in the West. LA Galaxy put 4 on Austin. Are you looking more at the positivity of a result like that for LAG, or is there more concern for Austin with their hiccuping that's going on right now? What direction after that match are you looking for those two?
It's a little bit of both. You got to give credit where credit is due. The Galaxy had a very good game, even on the defensive end. And I'm not talking about their back line, but how they were able to minimize the influence that some of the players for Austin FC had on the field. I thought that the game plan was there. And then that final third efficiency and just being clinical in front of goal and making things work. I thought it was just a good, well-around game for the Galaxy. I'm cautiously about who they really are as a team against maybe other contenders in the league. But I thought their possession play was good. I thought their passing was very good. But there are certain players that can be a little bit inconsistent, and I'm still waiting to see what this team can do later down on the road. But I like what I saw out of them. On Austin's side, I'm still high on them. I think that they have a good team, good roster, but they can be a little bit complacent at times when they feel like they are playing their game. And once they get behind the scoreboard, that's when things start working for them. They get too many numbers on attacking positions, and then they are vulnerable also defensively. So I think that the LA Galaxy is showing us that they have quality. We'll see what they do in the summer where they can get better and find some depth. But yeah, the LA Galaxy, great game. Austin, I'm starting to have a little bit of doubts. You're poking holes at some of those things that you saw from them early in the season. But I do think that they have some fundamentals that will make them a tough team to beat. But I wouldn't really put them as a contender. Are they a top 5 team in the West? No, I don't think they are. But they're a solid team.
Yeah, I think they're right underneath that level. You know, they might get 5, but I think they're right underneath the elite level. Last one for you, Nico, on the Eastern Conference side of things. New York City, since getting knocked out of CONCACAF Champions League, they've only dropped 2 points. They've been incredible. Tati Castellanos probably not here after the summer window ends. Can they maintain where they are without Castellanos?
Oh, man, that's tough.
I don't see how he stays after the summer window. Maybe he does. I don't see it. I think he's got to go, right?
I think he's gone. I really do. I think that
Same.
Europe will end up calling. I think that New York City group has too many connections in Europe for a team not to take advantage of a guy who's on fire, that's a grade 9, that, has a Argentine passport, which, like it or not, that weighs in on the action. Someone who has potential to be resold eventually as well. So he just has all the components to be a guy that's going to end up in a mid-level team in Europe, just like Miguel Almiron did. So New York City per se, I'm not sure. They have a lot of talent, but I do worry about the experience and those guys that game in, game out are going to find a way to win games. I don't know if Eber is the guy. He never really has been. And he's the guy that would automatically take that spot if you're not bringing anyone else in. You talk about Mongo and you could talk about Rodriguez maybe playing some sort of 9, but neither of them have the ability to play with the goal on their back and help with a little bit of the hold-up play, or maybe have that killer instinct to be a 9, right? We've seen how Rodriguez has struggled to move on from a wide position to a central position at that 10. So I don't think he's going to be the guy, although he's played forward before. And Tallis, I just don't know if you want to take him away from where he could be a more influential player with the speed, the one-on-one ability, the stretching out defenses. So if Tati's gone, I really think that New York City has to go and get a guy to play that position at a certain level, because I would worry about this team not having enough in that final third to be as good as they have been after CCL, after being bumped out of CCL.
Yeah, I think they just look so different without Castellanos, and I don't know. Ronnie Dyla, I think, is a very good coach, but they're going to have to reimagine, unless they do. You're not going to do like for Castellanos, but you get somebody with some of those qualities. I think you're going to have to reimagine how you play. And that's tough in the middle of the season, because right now they're the best team in the league, in my opinion. Right now, they are the top. And if you had MLS Cup, if it was an Apertura Clausura kind of situation, NYC would be the odds-on favorite to win the first half of the season. No question for me in a postseason format. I don't know if they're there at the end because of just what this looks like. And they're going to have time. Look, this is the nature of MLS, though. If they sell Castellanos, which I think they will, whatever they decide to do, whether they get somebody, whether they don't get somebody, whether they get somebody who's different, they're going to have time to rebuild going into the postseason. They'll make the postseason. I just don't know if they can be as as dangerous. Because right now I'm betting on NYC to win any game in the league. I don't know if I'm going to say that after Castellanos is not in that kit.
All I know is that, I've heard a lot of people going on that Eber has to be the guy that kind of takes over that role. I don't know if he has enough in the tank to be Tati. I don't think since he's been in NYCFC, he has been the guy to just put the team on his shoulders. Yeah. So I don't see it.
He's a good player, but he's just so different in his playing personality. And, if that's the direction they go and they don't try to replace Tati and they get to the end of the season to see where they are, you're going to need Magno, you're going to need Rodriguez to be even better than they've been, which is good. I really like Santiago Rodriguez, but you're going to need even more from them because you're not going to get as much from Eber. And can it work? We'll have to see. But that's one of those storylines when we get into the summer window that is glaring to me because it's going to affect the best team in the league in the first half, in my opinion. And that one and Vela going into the last month of his contract with really no clarity on what's happening with him. Those are the two storylines in MLS that have my attention at the moment.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It'll be interesting how that plays out. And, a team that has such high expectations, that has such momentum, so much talent, and youth. We also don't even know what's going to happen with a lot of those players. Rodriguez has been so good that, will somebody go out and come try to get him, snatch him up, or with the ties that New York City has, would they loan him out somewhere? I mean, there's just so many things with this New York City FC team that it'll be fun to follow him in this next summer window.
Winning can bring more problems. More money, more problems. More winning, more problems. I mean, it's part of the deal, and it's a good thing to have. You want those trophies, you want those top players, but then people want your top players, and you got to manage that situation. And in MLS, it's tough, but these are going to be the storylines. You got Chiellini coming to LAFC. You got Charlotte as a giant question mark hanging over their heads the rest of the way. You got Castellanos 1 foot out the door, and what do they look like? We didn't even get into Adam Buxa leaving New England and what that does. I've got some questions about New England going forward because of that. And you've got LAFC with one guy coming in and maybe one guy going out, and 28 days to find out?
Oh, yeah. It's going to be fun in MLS for sure. And there's a lot of novelas going on around the league that is going to be exciting for us media members to just absolutely follow and see where things lie. I will tell you this about the refs, man. I think they peaked, and I think that there's going to be a lot of changes in that organization before they get better.
Yeah, I think they got as far as they could go, and last year was their year, and they couldn't maintain it. I still question why they went 4-4-2 diamond as opposed to the 4-2-3-1 that was working so well with Heel and a free roll coming off the flank. It hasn't looked as good. They went back to it, and it's been better. I mean, they're scoring goals right now, but defensively, they're not where they need to be. They're getting older. They're going to lose Turner. I think they're still dangerous, but I don't think they are a contender this year. And losing Buxa, I think, makes that even more so. I mean, he's going to finish his time in New England scoring in 6 straight. Ended up being a much better player than I expected, and we'll see what he can do in France. But how do they replace him? How do all these other moves go? Man, you're going to have a lot to do between now and the opening of the transfer window.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to be very busy at Pulso Sports.
Very busy man.
I got to send you more coffee for that.
No, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I love the summer, the summer window. I will have a lot of work. And this week I'm going to focus a lot on trying to get a hold of Miguel Angel Ramirez, hopefully get him out at some point. I really hope that happens. If not, then at least I tried. But a lot of storylines that we'll be following in Pulso with Sandro Hart is going to be fun. We do get 14 days of a break, so it gives me time to get outside the box content. So thankfully we have a lot of leads.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Next week, we'll try to go a little outside the box with some of our conversation. We'll try to solve some of the problems that we don't like about where things are in the world, not just MLS. I mean, we love this league because we talk about it every day, but we gripe about it too. We'll talk about things that we want to make better worldwide. So start thinking on that. We'll have a very broad conversation next Thursday. Thank you so much, Nico, for your time. Drink some more coffee.
Thank you guys. I love it. Always happy to get on, man. And you guys help me process all this information. I dig it, man. Thank you so much. Big thanks to all your audience for always being so great. And I'll be looking forward to the coffee.
Yep, we'll get it your way. Send me your address. I'll get you some.
I got you, boss. Take it easy.
Thanks, man. See you, Nico. Make sure you're following El Rolo NW on the social media platforms. Last thing from me, and if there's anybody who has a pertinent question, throw it in right now. Do not go back through the chat, John. Any pertinent questions right now, throw it in. John will try to grab a couple of those really quickly. The MLS TV deal, there was conversation about it yesterday on a leading sports media podcast. John Orand of Sports Business Journal was on. They talked about where things stand. Apple TV, it had been reported by some that they were out. They're not out. They're still involved. They want more for what kind of money is being talked about, it sounds like. And that's going to affect how in they are. But they are still in the conversation. Fox is not completely out, but they're kind of reshaping what they do from a soccer content perspective. Sounds like ESPN is in, but maybe at a little bit lower amount on their broadcast networks. The streaming package, they didn't talk about it with ESPN, but I would assume they're in because they have it currently. Apple was talked about with that. So the out-of-market package, which might not be out of market anymore. It might just be the non-national broadcasts on linear TV, might be at Apple. The amount of money they talked about came up to around 3 times what was being 3 times what they're making now, which could be anywhere depending on how you want to talk about that, from about 180 million to 250. It's positive. Like, I think that's the thing that, when the initial conversation about the MLS TV rights came up and it was 300 million, we want 300 million. I worried that anything less than that was going to be sold in a narrative as a negative and a failure. You're going to triple your broadcast rights. There's not many entities right now that are tripling their revenue on broadcast. Now, yes, you can absolutely say, well, they're not making much right now to begin with, so there you go. Yes, that is true, Bullwinkle. You're accurate. However, you're still making more money than you were before. Mm-hmm. And that is progress. And this is the spot where I thought maybe, and look, TV is its own conversation about where it's going and what it looks like. By the time we get to 2026, we might not be consuming TV in anything resembling the way we are now, let alone how we did 10 years ago. I don't, and I think I'm still somewhat old school. I mean, I have cable, but I don't consume it the same way I did. I know that a lot of people consume it in a far different way than I do. The old narratives about ratings and this and that, and how the value of streaming versus linear, like all that stuff is evolving day to day. And MLS might be the one that goes a little faster into new ways of doing it. This deal might push them there a little bit more. But the NFL's doing a deal with Amazon right now. MLB's doing a deal with Apple TV. There's plenty of major entities that are looking at some different things. Apple TV is in on conversations with any big college property that's up or coming up. So, I mean, it's all evolving. MLS might be a step ahead of it because of where they are in the general pecking order. But it's going to be different. Don't be the one who, this is not what I want. And don't be that person, because the SEC is going to be in a different place down the road at some point. The Big Ten might be with their next deal in terms of college football. You might have to go to a streaming partner to watch a big Big Ten game because that streaming partner paid a lot of money for it. Mm-hmm. you might Pac-10, Pac-12, you might be your biggest game might be on a streaming network. There's all kinds of things going with all of it. So, I mean, this right now, this upcoming NFL season, the biggest property in American television sports, Thursday nights. You want to watch? Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's all changing. So MLS is going to be part of that. But it sounds like they're going to make more money than they did before, 3 times. It sounds like they could be in a very good spot by the end of this. And Apple TV is a really interesting one. And I think what it comes down to, trying to read between the lines in the podcast, is how far is MLS going to step into the future in this deal? Because if Apple TV is going to commit some of the money that maybe they're willing to, again, reading between the lines, you're going to have to give them some things that you typically would give to a linear TV partner, because they're going to pay like one. And that's talking like an MLS Cup. That's talking like not just an all-star game, but that's talking like an El Tráfico. That's talking your biggest games, your biggest draws. But an MLS Cup is what it's going to come down to. And MLS Cup might end up on a streaming platform because the money might be where it needs to be to do that. And is it the time to do it? Is it not the time to do it? It's going to happen. Like, whether it happens in 23, whether it happens in 28, whether it happens in 33, it's going to happen. You know, the last one that will do it, the last major event that will be purely on a streaming platform is the Super Bowl. That will be the last one to go there. But it'll go there at some point. Might not be here when it happens, but it'll go there because that's where everything's going. But some properties have to go a little bit faster because that's where the money's going to be, and that's where the demographics are going to be. And MLS might be the first one to put the biggest leagues to put their championship there. And if it's the right deal, it's the right deal. I don't know what the right deal is anymore. In the last year, I've really come around to this of, I can't think about it like I did 5 years ago about what the right TV package is. I can't think about it from 3 years ago or 2 years ago. It's a new world. And I get the best deal you can. Get the best deal with the most exposure you can. And that's what you got to do. And people will find it. You know, are you going to hurt the league by having more games purely on streaming than before, or having your biggest games there? I don't think so anymore. I really, truly don't. I think people will find it. I think what you need to do is be in places that give you the most potential exposure. And does streaming do that? You can argue that it doesn't, but you can also argue that it does if you're with a streaming partner that people have and people use and people are using for other things, and they are going to demonstrate their commitment to you by making it easy for people to find you. You know, like the Flow Sports thing, when a couple teams did that was a failure because nobody had it. Nobody used it. It didn't work very well. You had to go completely out of the way to get it. If you're on a Paramount, if you're on a Peacock, if you're on an Apple TV, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. If you're on a fly-by-night that's coming up to just start doing this, then you're going to have a different conversation. But if you're on a big streaming partner, you're going to be okay. And people are going to be able to get you, and people are going to be able to consume the product. Some people might not, but also some people are going to find you that wouldn't have found you before. And you've got to weigh all of that in a landscape of not having precedent to judge it anymore. So it's going to be fascinating. Hopefully we'll get some announcement here pretty soon on this, but it is sounding like they're going to triple their money at least. And Apple is going to be at least at some level of it, unless they get to a point where Apple wants too much than the league is willing to give, to go more to streaming. And then that might be a tougher situation for where you are. I do have questions a little bit about the Spanish language side, although I think Univision is really committed to everything they're doing, and MLS is a big part of that, and Leagues Cup would be a massive part of that. So I think they're going to be involved in what that looks like in terms of how it looks different in English language and in Spanish language. It's another fascinating topic that we'll just have to wait and see what the landscape is. Give me 3 good questions from the Twitch pitch, John.
Okay. 2 of them will be on the 2s.
Okay.
Byrne wants to know what you thought about Rocco last night.
Rocco looked more confident than he did last year, in my opinion, with the ball at his feet. I thought he looked more confident in general. He's the same kind of goalkeeper that he was, though, in general. Is he going to fix the deficiencies that we talked a little bit on stoppage time that Shuttleworth has had? He's among the lowest percentile in stopping crosses in the league. Brad Kazan was actually in the highest percentile. Bobby's in the lowest one. Is Rocco going to change that? I don't think he is. But I think he's very confident right now. And I think that is an issue with Shuttleworth. So I don't think he answered anything from one game. And also they conceded 4 goals. And they're not all on Rocco. As any game like this happens, all the goals that have been scored on Shuttleworth aren't all on Shuttleworth. But I think he looked very confident with the ball at his feet. He looked confident in his distribution. He's playing with confidence. That's good. I want to see how he bounces back from that game where he gave a 4. But he looked like Rocco.
Kevsey, what players from the 2s who played last night may get a look in the 18 for the first team soon?
I don't know if any of them will. Noah Cobb did not play last night. I think Noah is maybe the one who is the closest. I think he's had the most time training with them as of late. McFadden showed you, I thought, some good things. It's been interesting the last 2 games for Aiden McFadden. It's been really interesting tactically what Jack Collison's doing right now, and I don't think it's just because Jack got a wild hair and decided to start doing something that's different. I think this is something that they're working through, and they're kind of trying some different people in different places to answer that Kefsey's question. McFadden has played as a center back in a 3, which you can play, as we talked about with Bart, as Reggie Cannon did, as a right back in a 4 that turns into a 3 when the left back goes. McFadden has played in a more defensive position than he has, although he's still gotten forward. And he's been really good in those areas. I've been very pleasantly surprised by Aiden McFadden's development there. Robbie Mertz is still Robbie Mertz. I mean, I think Robbie is somebody who can go up a level in the level of play and fit right in. I think he's that kind of a player. I don't think you always see the best of Robbie Mertz with the players around him at this level. If you put him with better players, I think he looks even better. I didn't think Conway had a good game. I didn't think they found him enough. I didn't think he did enough. Orji was injured. I've liked what we've seen from Nelson Orji a lot, but he was injured, and that's a big loss. Efrain Morales showed a lot of character. A lot. He was not clean at all in his center back play here. He played as a center back in the middle of that 3. He had some really good plays, and he had some bad plays, and he had some really good distribution, which we expect. And he played on a yellow card for a long period of time, and I did not think he was going to pull that off.
35 minutes, yeah.
I thought he was going to see a second yellow. He maybe should have seen a second yellow. But Efrain Morales is still a player that you just got to get playing game after game. You've got to keep him healthy enough to play, because a 6'5" defensive player, because he's generally been a 6, but he played as a center back here. We've seen him a little bit as a center back. A 6'5" guy with his footwork and his technique is a unicorn a little bit. So you want to see what you can do with him. That's why when he went and trained with Manchester United when he was young, they were very, very interested in him. That's why Atlanta United signed him young. Can he make the jump? We don't know. I honestly don't have an answer to that yet. I don't know. Those are the ones that stand out to me off the top of my head. Great game for Robbie Mertz. I thought Highmar had some really good things and some things that weren't so good. I thought he ran out of gas at the end, and he's definitely culpable in the last goal. And his influence in the attacking portion waned as it went on, but he had 2 assists, and he's a very good attack-minded fullback. I'm not sure if he's good enough defensively for the next level, but it's very early days with him. And just really good to see them add Tristan Traeger, and we'll get a chance to see what he can be. Hardworking attacking player, I think, with a little bit of a nose for being a playmaker that is interesting. He's an intriguing prospect. He's coming from a level that it's a little hard to judge how he'll fit in and how well he'll fit in, how fast he'll fit in. But he's a hardworking guy with, I think, a little something special about him. So I want to see what he does with this group. It's just good to get him into the group and good to get him on the field last night.
So question number 3,
Okay.
And this came up on multiple occasions in the Twitch pitch.
Okay.
And so I'll just go with El Mataflow. On behalf of the people, can we make Nico sing "You Look Weak, You Look Confused" a situational soundbite for the show?
I will see if I can do that. Yes. That's the third question. That's the one you go with.
Well, I was trying, we're at the end of a show. I was trying to work toward the end of a show, but no, I'll go 2B with Sheath. Sheath had a question.
It's a good one. Don't get me wrong, but I thought when I said limited to 3, I didn't think that would be one of them. Sorry.
Well, no, then subset question 2B, Sheath was wondering about Tyler Wolff and what his status was.
I'm not sure, actually. I don't know. I don't know if there's been a little bit of an injury. I don't know if it's just a little bit of a drop of form, a drop of confidence. I'm not sure. He started the year really well. I thought he looked good in preseason. I thought he looked pretty good in games. Not as good as I expected, but pretty good. Some of it's personnel being back. Some of it is just a little bit of a numbers game for him, and you've got to have some more defensive options in the group, and maybe he's the one who loses out because of that. But no, I'm kind of been wondering that myself a little bit, because I've liked what I've seen. I do wonder where he projects long term. Is he a guy that can start for this team in big games? Right now, he's not. I'm not sure if he is. I'm not sure if he turns into that. In general, his play since joining the team in 2020 from the academy, it's been inconsistent. It's been really good at times, really good, to the point that if he plays like that, I can see him playing for the first team in big games. And it's been at times that I don't know if he's a starter at the MLS level. I don't know where he is right now, but I'm not sure why we haven't seen as much of him lately. I think a lot of it is just the numbers game at the position, but I don't know if there's anything else going on. It's a time where, look, young players come through this club all the time, and they're going to down the road. And there's going to be young players that you see with the second team and the academy, with a taste with the first team, that you fall in love with and you think is going to be the greatest player the club's ever seen. And you'll get some of those who will turn into that or turn into just below that. And you'll get some who don't make the progression and make it to the next stage. And maybe they have to go elsewhere to find their game, find their level. Or they just don't quite make it to that level. I don't know where Tyler Wolff fits into that conversation right now, but that is a club like Atlanta. That's going to be an ongoing thing with, you name it. How many guys come through this club? And I mean, we're seeing it right now in USL Championship, guys who did pretty well with the twos. We're not MLS level guys, I didn't think. And I'm still not really convinced, but maybe in the right situation, they could be, but are killing it in USL Championship. Lawrence Wyke has carved out a great career for himself in Tampa Bay. Philip Goodrum is lighting it up in Memphis right now. A guy who couldn't really stay healthy here. He just had bad luck. Laurent Kessiadou has done very well in Memphis. Jack Metcalf, a player that we liked and was a leader in some of the early twos teams. He's out in San Diego. It's just Andrew Carlton. I mean, Andrew Carlton had opportunities here. He didn't take them, and he's in San Diego. He's got another opportunity. So it's going to happen. And the guys in their individual situations have to continue fighting. They have to make the most of the opportunities they get. And they have to convince the leadership, the management, the front office that they can be a guy that you don't have to go get somebody from the outside. Jackson Conway talked about that in preseason, and it hasn't quite happened for him. But that's got to be the mentality of every young player at the club, is you've got to come up, and when you get your taste, you got to say, I want to show the manager, the front office, that they don't have to go get somebody else from the outside, that I'm the guy. That has to be their mentality. Not all of them are going to be good enough to get there, but that has to be the mentality. And we'll see if Tyler can push his way back into more playing time. I think he's got the ability, but he needs the consistency. And we'll see if he can get it.
You want one more?
Sure. I think you have a good one if you're saying that.
Ricky Ricardo wanted you to talk about the CCL 2024 qualification being announced and what you thought about the layout.
Yeah, I mean, I think it had been pretty heavily discussed, but maybe not official. We talked about it on Stoppage Time in some detail in the first portion of the show. I don't have it up in front of me. I like the layout in general. I like that there are more opportunities. I think they prioritized the right things getting into the round of 16 proper and others going through a play-in. The question we had on stoppage time, Mike brought it up, that the Mexico spot that goes into the round of 16, why isn't it the Campeón de Campeones winner rather than the aggregate Apertura Clausura better regular season record that goes there? Decision that I'm sure the Mexican league had a hand in making as well. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen the Campeón de Campeones go in there, but it's not the way they decided to do it. Okay. MLS Cup goes there, and that should be the one that goes there. I think the MLS teams that get into it are good. I like that the Leagues Cup winner gets in there. It adds some spice to that tournament. I like the kind of breaking up of CONCACAF League into the Caribbean and the Central American Cups, and those winners going into the round of 16. I'm glad that they didn't try to make them go into the opening round and not have a spot in the round of 16. I'm glad that those regions have that opportunity, even if they might not be at the level of the Open Cup winner or the other winner from Mexico and all that. That's fine. I like how CONCACAF set this up. I think they did a very good job. I would love to see at some point, and it's hard because of the size of the region and the disparity in resources. I'd love to see a group stage because I just love that way of competing for this kind of a tournament. I don't think we're ever going to get there. And if you don't, I think this is about as good of a format as you can have. I like it. And I like the things that they tweak to it. So I'm really happy with it. And I'm happy to get that expanded version of it moving forward.
That'll do. We're caught up.
Cool. Went a little long today. We might or might not do that tomorrow, 9:05. We won't have an MLS weekend whip around because there's only one game to talk about. But we will get caught up on all the other news and other stuff that comes in. We'll talk a little bit about U.S. and Uruguay and other games from coming up this weekend worldwide. So 9:05 tomorrow. Got an interview coming up a little bit later today as well with JP Reynal, who is involved in the Daytona Soccer Fest, among other things going on. I had a great conversation with him about some of the plans, how everything came together in Daytona. And it's a really interesting event in general. We've talked about it a little bit, but an organization that is working on some pretty big picture things. And this might just be the first salvo in what a Daytona Soccer Fest, or really a soccer fest in general like that, could end up being. So be on the lookout for that on the network, and we'll be back in the morning. Y'all have a good rest of the day. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata, y'all.